And I think, my God, how did I get in this position, to be able to lead these men, these giant men, in this fight. And I felt awesomely proud. And they're all sleeping. And then the second thing was kill Pacha Khan.
Oh, you wanted to kill him?
Yeah.
He was too influential?
Yeah.
Did his brother know that?
No.
Okay. Did he succeed?
And taste the metallic in my mouth. I'm like, God damn, I'll never walk again. And I hear somebody chattering in my ear, just. And I'm like, what the? I'm like, what? And it's my commo man. He's like, sir, Blackburn, Major Blackburn. I'm like, what? He goes, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I think I got shot. He goes, no, man. That shit was awesome. I'm like, what? Because you lit up like a Christmas tree. You need to turn around and come back. You are in Pakistan. $1 a day. Pick up a weapon and fight.
Cash.
Crazy.
Yeah.
How
much cash did you sign for? Where it's just like, here's a piece of paper. Sign here.
Oh, yeah. So the agency guys, they had a kit bag. They flew in a kit bag of money. And they're like, hey, you need to sign for this. And this is like a tablet. I'm like, I'm in the Army, bro. We don't do that. You got to have a hand receipt. They're like, you want the money? I'm like, yeah. Our pilot team was made up of agency guys and SF guys. And I didn't know that. I didn't know there was SF guys in the pilot team. The pilot team is that team that my oldest son, he was hit 3 times in Iraq. And we're just now kind of finding out the problems of TBI. And that was probably one of the best advice I ever got as a young leader. Because I was like, man, I'm going to be Patton. I mean, we were isolated in South Afghanistan. There was nobody coming to get us.
Lieutenant Colonel Perry Blackburn, it's such an honor and a delight to have you here today.
Thanks very much for having me.
I'm going to do a quick introduction to you, but as with many of my guests, no introduction will suffice. And so it's truly an honor for us to be here. Lieutenant Colonel Perry Blackburn is a former U.S. Army Special Forces veteran with 34 years in the Army and 28 years in Special Forces. You guys, that's the longest of anybody that I know. most of that was with the 5th group, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into 5th group, but that mostly covers the Middle East. He most notably was known for being one of the horse soldiers, the first in Afghanistan as part of the response post 9/11. The story of Perry was later dramatized in the 12 Strong movie.
You know, I think it was a composite of a lot of stuff that people were doing,
Mm-hmm.
and the movie was directed on ODA 595, but all of us had that role, and there was parts in it that we were all in.
You know, I feel like a lot of times when it comes to Hollywood and the dramatization of things, people are thinking that like, oh, it's one person that does 12 amazing things. And it's like, well, it's actually like 12 different people in one character. But,
Yeah.
you know, you are definitely, you know, your work and everything that you did there is captured somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, you know, it's not to the extent of like what really happened. It's much more complex, much more brutal, and of course, much more personal.
Yes.
And all of those things we will definitely get into today. You're also a grandfather?
I am.
That's awesome.
Best part of my life right now.
That's great. Congratulations.
So much better than having kids. So much better.
Why? Because you don't have to discipline them.
Yeah, that's one thing. Absolutely. And I don't know. I just love them to death. I mean, I love my kids to death too, but I mean, I always say like, I'll throw myself in front of a train for my kids.
Mm.
But for my grandkids, I throw my kids and myself in front of a
Oh, I love that. I've not heard that, you know, like explained like that before, but I totally hear you. That's cool.
train. Yeah, they're awesome.
So you were a commander of an ODA. We'll get into, I think a lot of the audience doesn't have the military background. And so we'll get into like, what is a ODA versus a ODB, all that stuff, all of which you played a role in. And then, of course, you were on the ground, as mentioned, during Operation Anaconda. We'll explain what that is. You have survived so many things.
Nuts.
But you've got such a purpose, which I also want to get into, because it's like, you know, I mean, I've known people that have gone shot at that have come back almost from the dead. Okay. Because SF medics are the best. But like, I don't know anybody that's even been struck by lightning or God. It's like, no, I'm not ready for you yet. Okay. So we're getting into all of it.
Oh, that's funny. You knew that. That's...
Actually, last night when there was a storm going through, and I was like, man, I hope I don't have to see him outside, because, you know, supposedly you'll get struck.
Oh, yeah. I learned my lesson.
It's like high risk at that point. But anyways, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here.
And it's been a while. I mean, we started talking about this, and now we finally had a chance to come together. It's really cool.
I typically like to start with the origin story, because what is it that makes such an incredible, great, brave soldier like you? Your origin story, you have kind of a unconventional one, actually, in that you didn't grow up here in the States. So tell me about your earliest childhood years. Where was it? And
So I was born in Germany. My mom's German. My dad was in the Army. You know, many soldiers. You know, but it's kind of funny because they, you know, that's after World War II, after that whole thing that when they started staying in Germany long term. And my dad met my mom, and I was born in Munich, came back to the States for a little bit. Then my dad went to Vietnam, and we went back over to Germany. So my first language was actually German. When I came back to the States, I had to learn English. It's kind of funny. I don't remember going to kindergarten, and my parents were like, no, you never went to kindergarten. So apparently I never went to kindergarten, because I damn sure didn't know the alphabet in the first grade, because I remember having to sit in recess and learn the English alphabet.
Really?
Yeah, and I could never get H.
Why?
I don't know.
How is it pronounced in German?
Ha.
Oh.
But I couldn't, when I was saying the alphabet, I would always skip the letter H, and it drove my teacher crazy. So I can remember sitting in recess in class while everybody's out there having fun, trying to figure out where that damn H fits in that alphabet.
That sucks. So did you feel singled out?
No. I think in the later years, talking to my mom, there was a lot still hangover from World War II. 40s, 50s, 60s. You're really only 45, 10, 15 years later, really. So people were still very not, as she would say, they weren't friendly to Germans.
Mm.
So that stigma probably hung over it for a little bit. But I only stayed in the States for about till about fourth grade, fifth grade, and then I went back to Germany. Grew up in Germany. Loved growing up in Germany. So much freedom as a kid. It was unreal.
Was it back in Munich?
Frankfurt this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's Frankfurt like?
Frankfurt was a big city with a small town feel. Because Americans lived on the housing areas, and we just had so much freedom to go on the economy, and we had these places called Trinkhalles, which was they would sell just about anything outside of a building, and we as kids we go up and get beer. We were like 13, 14 years old, drinking beer by the Trinkhalle.
Mm-hmm.
Gummies, what you guys call the gummy bearling. What do you guys call those gummy bears?
Gummy bears.
Gummy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gummy for us.
I'm calling it gummy. Gummy's way cooler.
Gummy bearling. So, all that stuff was just so natural to be there like that, and loved it. And like I said, we had so much freedom. We get on the streetcar, we go downtown Frankfurt, hang out, mischievous, always into something.
Mm-hmm.
American kids was always into something.
Yeah. So was it an American school then that you got to go to?
It was.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a former women's jail.
Right.
And they turned it into a school for Americans.
Yeah. It's like all the cells are already there. So just change the doors out. That's funny. Yeah, I love that. So the cool thing about like growing up is that, as a third culture kid, is that you are also exposed to a lot of cultures. And I would imagine, especially at that time, did you feel like you grew up in a Cold War Europe at that time? No.
60s, 70s, Vietnam lingered into the 70s. My dad served a tour, but it didn't seem as a kid growing up there that there was that atmosphere. The friction came because of us American kids and the culture with the German American kids. We were a lot more rambunctious. And a lot more ready to fight about things. We just, and back then, when you moved, you knew you were going to get into a fight. That's how you found your position within your classmates. And that just kind of boiled over into the German economy too. And so that wasn't the healthiest things. That wasn't a good vibe to have a good relationship with the German kids and the economy. Plus they went to school differently than we did. Like they seemed to go to school all day long, and then they were at home and they were inside and they were studying, very studious, where we were outside all the time. Like
feral. There goes those feral Americans again.
My gosh. Absolutely.
And so your dad, he was in the military. He served in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Was he Army or?
Yeah, he was Army. He was an Army medic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And we, lately we've had pretty good discussions about his time as an Army medic and what he did in Vietnam. And it's kind of cool to hear those stories now, later in life.
What's something that really stands out to you about those stories?
I think just the desire to help people from his perspective, as a medic, and being in an environment that, is chaotic, and he's rushing to provide aid. And if you think about that, And what I know with our medics, they don't care what's going on. If there's somebody injured, they're to the injured. And I can now see that in him. As a kid, I couldn't see that. I didn't understand that. But knowing what I know now, I look at him differently. Like, oh yeah, you're a badass, Pop.
Yeah.
You're a badass.
That's cool. And badass friends in the family for you. So is it a generational thing that you guys joined the military? Because your son also joined the military, right?
Yeah, both of them did. It sure did.
Both. Wow.
And actually, my oldest son, he was hit 3 times in Iraq. And we're just now kind of finding out the problems of TBI. And for me, it's almost, I'm very proud of him and very proud that he served. But watching what he's going through now is very difficult. It's pretty tough, especially because his body's starting to shut down and he's in a lot of pain and he's a young man. And so it's really tough on the family. It's really tough on my wife. It's tough on our relationship, trying to figure out how to help him and try to get him the right care. But I don't think we know yet what or how to deal with TBI. And you can see it. You can see it on social media. On social media, you can see our buddies that they start rambling and talking crazy shit. And you're like, TBI. And it's every time. And it's true. It's what happened to him.
I'm so sorry to hear that. But I think it's really important that, there's more awareness around that now. And, but to your point, as it's still being figured out.
A special report on the hidden physical injuries devastating the lives of our war veterans and their families. Traumatic brain injuries can be caused by blasts from explosions. The shock waves can damage the brain, with repeated exposure increasing the risk. It can be very hard to diagnose, though, and is often confused with post-traumatic stress disorder, but its effects can be frightening. The wife of one affected veteran is leading calls for TBIs to be properly recognised and treated. And a warning that this report from our correspondent Geraint Vincent starts with one former soldier's descriptions of the suicidal thoughts his brain injuries have caused.
Craig Harrison spent more than 20 years in the British Army. He served in some of the most challenging environments on earth. But his life since he left the armed forces has been so difficult, thoughts of ending it have become part of his routine.
Massive thinking of suicide all the time. All the time. I suffer from suicide ideation, so I constantly think about it all the time. Easiest way out. I'm constantly in pain. From my hips, from especially my brain, and I get angry sometimes and I hit myself. That's how I cope. I just get so frustrated and angry with myself, and I don't know where to put this anger, so I just take it out on myself.
Craig was part of a sniper team. During the course of one tour of duty in Afghanistan, he was knocked unconscious when a bullet struck his helmet. A few days later, both his arms were broken when the vehicle he was travelling in was blown up. But the really serious damage had been done inside his head. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were fought over many years, and a favourite weapon of the insurgencies in those countries was the improvised explosive device. Booby-trap bombs buried in the ground or hidden in buildings, triggered by the pressure of a footstep. But explosions big and small are, of course, the currency of all modern warfare, from airstrikes coming in to the ignitions which propel the bombs going out. Shockwaves from the blasts shake soldiers' brains, so that even if they escape obvious physical injury, the delicate balance of the mind can be upset. That effect has a name: blast-related mild traumatic brain injury.
If it's a particularly strong blast force that moves somebody, we're going to lose consciousness. We're going to see those acute signs that we'd probably call more a concussive injury. And to a degree, these might be as severe enough to cause bleeds on the brain. At a lower level, these waves will translate through the brain and translate through the body, but cause those kind of vibrations, which will cause micro tearing of the brain tissue. We're talking about changes of cognitive function, personality and behavior from immediacy of that injury. And that can be quite devastating for both the person that's been exposed to that blast, but also their family, their friends, everybody around them, because we see a sudden change.
Is it preventable, do you think?
In war, I don't think so. You'll always have concussions. You always have explosions. What we need to figure out is this war, the GWAT war, we've seen a lot of people lose limbs. Almost like back in the Civil War era. And so we kind of figured out how to do that with amputees and what right looks like, both physically and mentally. TBI, we haven't figured out. They've tried, they've done some tests, they've done some things, but it's still such an unknown science. I think that they need that. You really got to put a lot of effort in. And the NFL is doing a great job of trying to help with that, because they're having the same issues with concussion. So, the concussion protocol for NFL players. Well, we don't have a concussion protocol. Our concussion protocol is, you have a concussion? Okay, well, we're rolling out in about an hour. Let's go. I mean, that's our protocol. So we need to figure that out.
And early intervention, I assume, if you're able to detect it early intervention should play a key role in being able to prevent further damage, I guess.
And I think care, you got to have holistic care. You can't, we're kind of weird in the VA system where, you broke your leg, so we'll provide you, 30% care for that. No, let's just go ahead and provide 100% care, because there's second and third order effects, as we call it, other effects. There's a reason why that leg was broke, because he was blown out of his MRAP.
Yeah.
Right. And he has a concussion. So there's more to the story, but we can't get past that yet. And we really need to do a better job at that.
Yeah. Hopefully, as more people start to talk about it and address it, there ends up being more of a protocol. And prevention is difficult, right? But like an early intervention, that's, hopefully, use of technology or something down the line. So
I agree.
So you have 2 boys and a daughter, yes?
I got 2 girls, also 2 daughters. Yeah, they're. It's funny, when you get kids, when they get older, how they are. My daughters will call me all the time and see how I'm doing. Hey, Dad, how's it going? Mm-hmm. Even when they're in the middle of a crisis, they'll call me.
Yeah.
Kids running around, they'll call me to tell me they're in a crisis. My sons, they won't call me unless they need something. Them boys will radio silence, and then all of a sudden they call us like, I know, something. That's the boys.
Yeah.
But they'll call their mom. Check out the mom.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. As a boy mom, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, they'll call their mom, but their dad, they're like, whatever. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's great. So with your kids, were you overseas when any of them were born?
No, I managed to be home when they were all born, but I managed to miss just about every birthday they had, or because most of them are in the summer, and my deployments always seem to be in the summer. So I missed a lot of that. Missed a lot of time with them growing up in sports and things like that. But when I was home, I tried to be all in on everything that they were doing. All their activities, whether it be a talent show, as a second grader. Mm-hmm. Right there cheering them on, let's go, or coaching ball when I had the chance. So I was always trying to be part of it. I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. People always go, well, how were you married for so long? Because it's not typical, right?
What they say, SF comes with a guaranteed divorce.
And I don't think there's any magic to it. I mean, a magic answer. I think it's just hard, and you just grind away and you just stay together. And I think, for me personally, part of it is the kids, just being able to be their father and be there and be present was enough for me to, no matter what else was going on in the world, even when I was deployed, I'd always find a way to send letters to them or there was some letters to me. And then later on in the deployments, we could actually Skype, which was kind of a new thing for me. It's like, wow, it was kind of weird. As we were watching Lost Out, Elegy of a Green Beret, which everybody needs to watch, there is a story in there for everybody. It really personified the feelings, not just of there's the family unit at home that, is waiting for dad to come home. But, on the soldier's side, the person that's deployed, that, the Skype ring, that just hit home. That Skype ring, man. I was like, oh, I haven't heard that. It's like this it sounds so familiar. But can you talk a little more about the feelings of how do you cope with the fact that you're missing these milestones in your children's lives? A lot of veterans talk about survivor's guilt and things like that, which we'll probably talk about. But what about the guilt of missing all the milestones? Is there a guilt there that you feel? I don't know if I feel guilty about it. I feel like I've missed something, right? Like if people talk about an event or talk about something and you weren't there, and I feel like, oh man, I'm kind of sorry I wasn't there for that. But I knew going in, my wife knew going in that what the possibilities were of deployments in special forces. I mean, now knowing it and living through it are two different things. So you have to adjust and figure out how you're going to live through those deployments. And we did that. We were able to make that adjustment. But now, later, my kids joke around all the time. They'll tell stories, and I'm like, when did that happen? And they'll always say, you were gone, Dad. You were deployed. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, tell me about it. So now I get to relive it through their stories as adults.
Nice.
And it's pretty freaking funny. And some of them is funny.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hilarious with some of and they want to tell you everything. It's like, whoa, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Yeah, TMI.
TMI, right? It's like, no, I don't want to hear that. One time my kids caught each other on fire. They were playing with firecrackers, and they were younger, I guess 12 and 10, the two boys, Trey and Victor, and they went back out in the backyard, and one of them had the bright idea. Now, we don't know which one yet, still, to bring a can of hairspray.
Oh,
with them.
Shoot, aerosol, there you go.
So they could flamethrow those firecrackers. So the little one, Victor, who always seemed to be in trouble, had the aerosols, the hairspray, and I guess when he had sprayed it, he had sprayed some on himself. So when Trey, the oldest, lit the lighter, and they hit the lighter with the spray can, and it started going off. It hit him too, the fire, the flame, and so he caught on fire.
Oh shoot. Jeez.
No, I'm not there for this, right? Yeah. So this is the life of the wife at home while the husband's deployed. And so he starts running. And this is the funny part, is when they tell the story. Trey, the oldest, is yelling, stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll. And Trey goes, it was nothing but a flame. So he stops, he's rolling, And there used to be this cartoon. I can't remember what the name of that cartoon was, but they used to teach that in that cartoon. And then he remembered that.
Nice.
And so that's kind of what saved him from being, fully engulfed. But so then they went home, and
so the stop, drop, and roll worked.
It worked. It put the flames out, but the damage was done. I mean, he was burned, like almost 3rd-degree burns on his parts of his leg.
Oh my gosh.
But he went home and told his mom he fell out of a tree. She's like, "What happened to your eyebrow?"
You've got no
eyebrow, and your hair is singed, and you smell like you've been burned. And immediately he goes, Trey did it. And Trey's like, "I didn't do anything. He got burned, Mom. We got to take him to the hospital, call 911. So, but those are the stories, when it's like, man, that she had to deal with. And she never would tell me what was going on. Everything was roses. Everything was great. Never had any money problems. Never this, never that. I mean, she just dealt with all of it. And the kids too, they dealt with Dad being gone. And so it was kind of listening to the stories now is going back to your question. I don't feel regret, but I am remorseful, I guess. There's some remorse there that I wish I could have been there for that. But at the same time, I feel very proud of having done what I did for my country.
Exactly.
You got to do it, and so it's, I feel proud of that. So,
yeah. And
they're okay. I mean, Dad not being there didn't affect them too much. A couple burns, but other than that, they're all right.
Yeah. Wow. No, and I love that. I love, tying in the patriotic angle to that as well. I'm sure they're so proud of you too, to have their dad be who he was. And so let's get into that side of your life. Your dad was SF, right? So
he ended up going to Special Forces, but when he was in Vietnam, he was with the 173rd Airborne Division as a grunt medic, infantry medic.
Wow. But so what prompted you to choose the Green Beret?
It's a kind of funny story. After my infantry officer basic course, the Ranger training brigade commander came during our course and said, "Hey, we will take anybody that wants to go to Ranger school." And so I was like, "Oh, okay, I want to go." So I finished IOBC, and I told my breast manager I wanted to go to Ranger school. And I was already a first lieutenant because I had a different, I joined the reserves while I was in Army ROTC, so I got commissioned, and then 3 years later I got promoted to first lieutenant. So I was already a first lieutenant, which was kind of weird.
And sorry to interrupt, so that's like kind of down an officer track, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Second lieutenant, first lieutenant.
Yep.
So anyway, I went down to the Ranger Brigade, and they were full. They didn't have any other slots. And I'm like, "But you said," like, "Well, yeah, but we can put you in a holding pattern, basically snowbirding 3 months." I'm like, "No, I don't want to do that," So there was this SF recruiter, and I went over and talked to him, and I thought, there's no way they're going to let a first lieutenant go in the Special Forces training. And he's like, "Yeah, I can get you in. You can start in a month." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." So boom. I was like, "All right, let's go." So that's how I kind of ended up in there. And I remember my dad having gone to the 18th Delta, which is the Special Forces Medical Corps. And so I thought, well, this is kind of a cool track, to kind of follow that lead. But I had really no idea what I was getting into, other than truly what you hear or read about, or the movie The Green Berets.
Yeah.
Right. And there wasn't really a lot of assessment to get into the Green Berets at the time, it was once you're there, you're assessed. Very hard. But all newcomers. So that's kind of how I ended up.
Wow. That's cool. And then, so very difficult, very hard. What really stands out as well as like being some of the hardest things that you've had to deal with?
So the first part, the first phase, when we went out into the field, and it was very physical, and it was very new. Everything was very new, and we did long movements with rucksacks, with heavy rucks. And I don't think any of us were really used to it. And they kind of built you up a little bit with that. But then they would test you along the way. So they would physically break you down where you're mentally and physically tired. And then they would start testing you on things that they had taught you to do. So they bring you in, they teach you hands-on stuff, and then they put you out in the field and you're working your butts off and you're getting tired, you're mentally tired, you're physically tired, and then they start testing you. And those tests mean something. You either pass or fail. And so it was very stressful, especially when you get into like you've already been there 6 months and they could still drop you. So you put all this time and energy and effort in it. And at the end, they could say, you're just not the right guy. It's not a good fit for us. So you're trying to figure out what that looks like too.
Yeah, what do you think they're looking for beyond? Because, the SF community, if I were to stereotype, there's obviously the physical resilience side of things, but there's also like such mental acuity and such an intelligent core that go into SF. Like it's a different type of mentality. You guys you clearly have the global perspective by virtue of having grown up as a third culture kid and all that. But what else do you think they're looking for beyond just the physical aspect?
I think it's the agility part of it. You kind of touched on a little bit. Mentally and physically agile, be able to adapt. We used to always say adapt and overcome. And that's kind of what it is. You have to adapt to the environment, adapt to the stress, and then be able to execute. And it doesn't really matter personality-wise so much at times, because we've got nerds in there, we've got athletes in there. And I always say the best special forces teams are not type A personalities. They're not all athletes. You got to have a mixture of guys. And so special forces does a really good job of finding that mix of people that are good with computers, that are good with communications gear, that are good with medical stuff, and not everybody's like that. I mean, we cross-train each other, but we cross-train each other at a basic level so we can survive. But our medics, best in the world, where do they get these guys? Or where are these kids, fresh out of high school, some of them that have that ability to jump in and be that way? I mean, there was a story, buddy of mine was hit with the RPG round in the arm, and it took his arm off. And he was a commo guy. And so the story goes, he brings the radio with one arm to the team leader and basically says, I can't make commo. I can't function. And the team's like, oh, shit. So they wrap him up and they start medevacing him back in a taxi, of all things. They were downtown Baghdad. And they get him back to the base camp. And the kid that starts working on him, fresh out of the qualification course as a medic, just got out. And he starts working on him. And he remembers to this day that medic and how good he was and how well he took care of him, talking to him. And talking him down and saying, we got this, I know how to do this, we're going to take care of you. I mean, Briscoe, don't worry about it. And when he told me that story, I was like, my God, man, that kid must have been like, because we started letting him in pretty young, like 20, 21 years old. And he goes, I think it was like 19. It's like, what? And so they do a great job of finding these guys, and it's humbling. It's really humbling to be a part of that with them, because they're awesome people.
Yeah.
So we get out of the vehicle, Joe's still in the back seat. We return fire, and I quickly realized we need to get the heck away from this vehicle. This vehicle's dead. We're not going to get it started. We found out later that we pieced it all together that when some of those RPGs came in and took out Joe's arm, some shrapnel hit the gas tank and knocked a big hole. Because we went back to this area and you could see the big fuel spill. And all the gas came out. So we only had the gas and the fuel lines. That's why we just drove that short distance and ran out of fuel. So we're sitting there on this road, and I looked to my right and looked to my left, and I don't see much. And I see something way down my left, way down there. There's a couple of vehicles, and I tell Chuck, abscond that vehicle. I'll get Joe. And so I open the door, and Joe's kind of in and out of it. He's lost a lot of blood. As you'd expect, he's lost his arm. And I said, Joe, we're getting the fuck out of here. It sounds weird to say this. It feels like there's this force field around me. And the rounds are hitting all around me. And but Joe's not hit, and I'm not getting hit. And then I start running. RPGs are flying by. They shot at least 2 RPGs at me. I said, oh, there goes an RPG. There goes another RPG. I'm running, and none of these rounds are hitting me. I'm like, I'm going to get hit any second. We're both going to go down hard. We're going to be screwed. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else mattered. I was going to get Joe to that vehicle no matter what. And it was just going to actually happen.
Yeah, saving lives in like the most difficult and gruesome situations. And it's just, when you think of like how they're able to just tune out the brutality that's happening around them, and they just laser focused on keeping this guy alive.
Yeah, it's
incredible. As you kind of progress in the SF track, can you explain what is an ODA? Your team, what is it, 12 guys?
Yeah.
Like, not everyone that's SF is in an ODA, right?
So the Operational Detachment Alpha, that's the A team. That is the fighting force, the unconventional warfare force of our services, of all our services. So that is the 12 guys that go out and conduct unconventional warfare. There's no other service, even the SEALs, that do what we do in unconventional warfare. And so those 12 guys are made up of a commander, he's a captain, a team sergeant, which is an EA, and sometimes you may have a warrant officer he was an SF guy and then became a warrant officer, and he's usually the executive officer of the team. And then you have a medic, you have an engineer, which are demolition guys that's really kind of their bread and butter, and building things, and we use that a lot, do unconventional warfare with them through. Commo man, of course. So we have 2 per, and then so it makes up a 12-man A team, and those A teams operate independently of each other. They can go anywhere. And then the commander of all the A teams in a company, which is usually about 6 A teams, is a major. And he deploys with his team, which is made up of basically the same guys. So he has the same type of fighting force as the A teams, but he's there to command and control the A teams and set the kind of the parameters for his teams to be able to be successful. And then he also can fight his force alongside of him. And that's kind of how we win it. That's exactly what we did in Afghanistan in 01-02, because I was a major at the time. So I was a scuba team leader.
Oh, yeah. So can you talk about that? So you were a scuba team leader. So SF does out like the maritime side as well. And what got you interested in that?
Stupidity, really. I mean, that was the hardest class school I ever went to. That was brutal. I just thought, man, I want to be on what was considered the most physical, and is still to this day the most physical teams in special forces, and that's scuba teams. And so it was a really, really hard course, hardest course I've ever been to, harder than special forces training.
What stands out? I can only imagine, but what really stands out for you?
So the days are long. PT in the morning, 4:30. It's an hour and a half. Yeah, you get breakfast. You jump in when there's pool week, you jump in the pool and they're harassing you in the pool. They're taking away your air. They're putting you in the deep end. You're weighted down. You're hitting the bottom. Dudes are passing out. We call it shallow water blackouts. Pull you to the gunnel side of the pool. You get some oxygen. They give you a chance to recover real quick, and they're like, okay, get in the water, get in the water, get in the water. You don't get in the water, you're done. And it's real quick. It thins out the herd real quick. My scuba class started with like 78 people, and we graduated 23.
Wow.
And the herd thinned quickly. And that first week, and then you're doing long swims out in the ocean, and you got to pass your swims. It's got to be the right time. You can't be too fast. You can't be too slow. We're swimming sometimes a mile underwater, 1,500 meters, and every day is a swim. And then every day, once you get to that point, you're swimming twice a day because your buddy has to swim and you have to swim. So you swim in the day and you swim at night. So it's just physically and mentally draining the whole time. And then the PT gets harder to where you're doing 9-mile runs in the morning with all this other stuff, and you're just drained at the end of it.
How long is it?
4 weeks.
Wow.
It's really 6 because you have 2 weeks of pre-scuba to get you ready for it, and then 4 weeks of that. It's just brutal.
That's insane. And then so you have a buddy. How does that, is that what keeps you going? It's like you just don't want to let him down, or what keeps you going?
What kept me going was I wanted to get back to the team, and I could not imagine failing scuba school and having to go back to SF guys as an officer and saying, yeah, I failed.
Yeah.
That was the
So it's
thing.
the pressure. It's like peer pressure. Wow. And that is incredible. That's the fortitude.
Yeah, it's insane.
Wow. Okay. And then back to the ODA structure. Does the ODA get put together when there's a need? So let's talk post 9/11. Did you guys start selecting for the ODA based on okay, we need a comma, we need a,
no,
we need this, or you guys are
we're already together.
Go.
Yeah, we're already together. But it was kind of one of the friction points when we started deploying after 9/11, because they wanted 12-man A teams, and not all teams are fielded with 12 guys because there's just not enough people. So some teams have 10, they may have 8. But they needed 12-man teams. So say you're on an 8-man team, your team got broke up, and your guys went to other teams to round them out to 12 guys. And that was a hard decision that Colonel Mulholland, our commander, had to make. And I know it wasn't an easy one because we were not happy about it, because we're used to being on our team with our guys, and doing stuff. So we know each other really well. And now here we are going into this environment of war, and we're getting new people. But that is really the dynamic of the Army in essence of itself. And it should be, it's part of us being able to be agile enough to accept that. And we did. We just didn't like the way it started. But once we did it, we overcame that friction point pretty quick, because all of us wanted to go. I mean, we're ready. Like, let's go.
You were waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was no combat before that, except for like Desert Storm, right?
Yeah, well, Somalia, we did Somalia. I did Panama, Desert Storm, the Balkans, but it wasn't UW. It wasn't unconventional warfare.
Right. And this is what you guys are made for.
Yeah.
So Colonel Mulholland goes to the White House eventually and briefs the president on the plans, the SF plans for unconventional warfare, because this was going to be an unconventional war. And so the strategy at that point was find the tribal leaders. You know, these are the key tribes. These are the tribal leaders. And here's how we're going to institute a regime change, which is, in essence, what the ultimate goal was, right?
Yeah, well, it was defeat Al Qaeda and the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the next level for them is a regime change. We didn't really give a shit who was in there. That was their job. Our job was to close with and defeat Al Qaeda and the Taliban. And here's one thing I want to make sure I say, because I often forget to tell this. When we went into Afghanistan in 01 and 02, we weren't just fighting Al Qaeda and Taliban. We were fighting everybody. I mean, people came from all over the world to kill Americans.
Oh, Mujahideen, yeah.
Even Americans came to kill Americans.
Oh, yeah. Right. What was that guy's name?
John Walker Lynn.
Lynn, yeah.
And there was more than him.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you think about it, you know, you take a step back and think, man, they were really, that was their time to make an impact on killing Americans. And we turned around that pretty quickly on them, because we took the fight to them really quick and really hard, and was able to really within months get a regime change, start building up a new government, and at the same time continuing to fight Al Qaeda and the Taliban and any comers. And I used to say that. I was like, hey, come on, let's go. If you want some of the Americans, you're gonna feel the wrath of the American might, and what a Special Forces A team is able to do tactically, and use all the assets that we have available to defeat you. We will do that, and we did. You can't. I don't care what anybody says. I know how it ended. But we won every tactical fight on that battlefield. We never lost. And I've never lost a fight, and I never will lose a fight. Not going to happen. And these guys that I'm with, nobody batted an eye.
Yeah.
Nobody thought, I really can't do this. Oh, hell no. We were all in. We wanted retribution.
All right, let's go there. So 9/11 happens. You were probably, where were you at the time?
I was at Campbell. I was in true form of actually the movie 12 Strong. I was the guy that was conducting water ops in the Cumberland River. And we would RO'd in, rest overnight. We stayed out on the Cumberland River overnight. And it was that next morning we were out there, and we were still doing ops with 160th, and where they would come in with their helicopters, and they would practically put half the helicopter in the Cumberland River, and we'd float our boats in there and our kayaks. Nice. And we were doing all that practicing, and then we'd jump the kayaks out and the boats out and swim and do it at day, do it at night, and we were just having a great evolution of training, for combat divers. And then when 60th was headed over, and they made a U-turn, and they left. Right. I was like, what? And so I was in charge. So I called range control. What's going on? Why, what's going on with our air? Because they weren't responding. So I thought maybe there was a problem, mechanical problem. And they're like, wait one. And they came back and said, return to base immediately.
You know how much traffic is right now?
Traffic? We're freezing out here all damn night. Why don't you jump here? Did you stop at Starbucks? You drive.
Oh, so
where's my latte?
Milo, it's 8:30. What happened? What, you guys don't know?
No, we're in the river, man. Damn, they're low. Is that part of a drill?
Ain't no drill.
And it's like, what? So back then, we didn't really have cell phones. So we're really, I think a couple of us had a cell phone, but it wasn't really something that we use today like we do, right? So then somebody was like, hey, I think there's something going on. And so we kind of huddled up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, let's, get all the equipment. Let's go. We're going back to base, back to 5th Group area. So we did, and on the ride back, we were hearing that there was potential strike against America, and we're like, what? A strike against America? And so when we got back, and we got all the team rooms usually had some kind of TV, and certainly the battalion headquarters did. And we're all sitting around watching what was going on with the 9/11 strikes. And we all of us were, as the reporters were going, oh my gosh, there was another plane accidentally went into the towers. Like, we looked at each other like, oh, hell no, this is real.
You knew.
We knew.
Then when the second plane came.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, this is real.
Right.
Maybe one, not two. And then it's like, yeah, we're getting hit. And then these are civilian aircraft, and we were putting it together. They're being hijacked.
Yeah.
And then, we're just kind of watching it unfold. And then they shut down post for Campbell. And we were anxiously awaiting word. We spent the night there again. The next day, we kind of had a meeting with everybody, and I thought, we're going to go to war over this. And I told my operations sergeant, I was like, get every range you possibly can. Get all the weapons out of the weapons room. Get teams, get all their weapons out. Get the weapons cleaned, malfunctions checked, make sure they're all ready to go, and get them on ranges and get as many bullets as you possibly can. Because we need to get on the ranges with our weapon systems, because we're going to go to war over this. I guarantee it. And my battalion commander, great guy, but he's like, slow down, Perry, slow down. I'm like, no, sir, I've seen this before. This is not, we went to war to Panama because a Navy lieutenant was arrested. That was the inciting incident that really pushed U.S. over. And this, what just happened, we're going to war. And so I remember we had a battalion meeting, and we were talking about training and all this stuff. And they're like, okay, Perry, because I was company commander, what are you guys doing with Charlie Company? I'm like, we're at the range. We're doing maneuver. We've scrapped that whole plan. And we're calling back everybody, all my teams that are overseas that are doing what we call J sets or exercise, we're calling them back, getting ready for war. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, time out. Let's wait till we get, the word. I'm like, we don't have time to wait. We really don't. And it was true. And it was really shortly thereafter, just like you said, Mulholland went up, and then he came back, and next thing you know, we're putting teams in isolation and sending them to Uzbekistan and sending them into Afghanistan to link up with warlords and start fighting.
And the warlords selection, all of that happened on the agency side. Can you talk about the SF agency collaboration?
Yeah, it was funny because when I got on the ground, I was like almost dumb to the whole thing. Like, I had no idea. Like, these guys were OGA, other government agencies. Okay, what does that mean? I mean, where are you from? What was it?
Yeah. Don't worry, we're on the same team.
Yeah, well, yeah. What's your name, Smith? How many Smiths are there in this damn place? All you guys are named the same thing,
They all have one syllable names.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like, what? So the last ship was pretty seamless, just not understanding it. And here to this point, our pilot team was made up of agency guys and SF guys. And I didn't know that. I didn't know there was SF guys in the pilot team. The pilot team is that team that went in to link up with the warlord and get ready to transition for us to come in and conduct unconventional warfare. Well, in Host, I was actually in Kandahar working with Task Force K-Bar and the SEALs, and I was remissioned to go to Host and link up with Kamal Khan and the agency guys, the ODA guys. Well, when we were moving into Koust or Host, we got hit. The pilot team got hit, and we worked through it. And the guy that got hit was actually an NSF guy. I didn't know that. I was like, well, what's he doing here? And he was a medic from First Group that was attached to the OGA. And it's like, well, and I remember thinking, at the time, like, oh, that probably should have been something we should have known, like we should have been briefed on. And so it's kind of, that whole secrecy at the beginning was kind of weird to me. But I understood it too. I knew that they had to do it. For me, I'm not as secretive as a guy. I'm more secretive toward our tactics than I am our interpersonal relationships. So I want to know who you are, what you're doing, because I feel responsible for all the military people. I feel responsible for anybody on my compound. But if you're in the military, I mean, we have a direct line of effort that is responsible for taking care of us. And so that was something that was it was kind of, we had to figure that out. And then they changed over midway through our deployment. We got a new batch of OGA guys in, which was again, it was like, oh, okay. But the guys that really helped us out a lot were the translators.
Oh, yeah.
I mean.
So your translator came from the agency, probably.
He did at first.
Yeah. And until you can go through the vetting and have somebody especially for you. Interesting. Okay. So thank you for sharing that perspective, because it's very unique to have somebody that was on the ground and, in a situation where you have to quickly adapt, which you do very well. After the attacks, you had your team assembled, and then you knew you were going to go to war. You knew, but you also were fueled by a lot of anger and all of that, which is natural. And then how long until you actually were able to deploy?
We started deploying guys pretty quickly, like in 9/11, right in the beginning of October. I can't remember the exact date the first team touched down. But me and my guys pushed our teams out, and then we rolled in November, and then by December we were with Task Force K-Bar. And it was kind of funny because we didn't realize that some teams had already started rotating out, like 595. They had already rotated out in December. So they were there, they did their job, and they came out.
What is it, like 3 months, like roughly 2 to 3 months?
It was, I think that was like, not even 60 days. And so what they were trying to do was what the Mulholland and our headquarters guys was trying to keep guys fresh, because they were thinking this was going to be a long-term effort, just keep pushing fifth group guys through. So get them in, finish that, bring them back, bring somebody else in, and keep rotating them in and out. But in January, kind of realized that they need to slow that down, because we were still having a longer fight with the Taliban and AQ, because now, and other people that were coming in. So it was getting a little bit more convoluted. So we stayed until May, down there June. and conducted UW, and that's where Anaconda came in, Operation Anaconda.
Fight on our hands, and we took care of them before the day was over with. So very successful there. And last 24, 36 hours, moved some armor forces down into the village here to secure the ground. That we are currently in contact with the enemy in smaller numbers. We still have the momentum, and as far as we're concerned, this is not going to end. Even when they say Anaconda's over with, we're not going to let loose of these guys. I'm here to tell you. We've got good leads on them. We're tracking them 24 hours a day. We've got eyes on them. We have good leads. We know where they're going, and we're going to stay on them. And if I was an Al Qaeda leader, I'd sleep with one eye open.
And there was one more big operation that we did to find bin Laden, but then we mainly focused on getting the rest of Al Qaeda and the Taliban defeated so the government could stand up and do its thing.
Yeah, what a crazy time. Can you set the stage of, the moments of, first of all, were you were already in a commanding role for the ODA before going into?
I had just taken command of Charlie Company, 1st Battalion, 5th Group in July. Mm-hmm. So I'd come off a team.
Oh, in July. So yeah. That was fresh for you.
And most of the guys that were in command, actually, I would say probably 60% of the command was new, including General Mulholland and including my battalion commander. All 3 company commanders were new, me and the other 2. So we were all trying to figure out who's who in the zoo and who we are. Because even though we grew up in the same group, that doesn't necessarily mean you know each other because we were always gone. I always tell people, if you're in the same company, you probably know somebody that was there. Battalion, it's getting a little dicey. The group, who knows? Might have heard of each other.
Yeah.
But they actually know each other because we're just gone all the time. I mean.
Where were you gone? Like, we're gone just training?
Training, okay. Like Africa.
I want to talk to you about some
Middle East. I had just come off of my triple nickel ODA 555. I was a scuba team leader there for 4 years, which is unheard of. It's usually 2 years. I loved it. I loved that job. I wish I could have kept that job for life. It was just being with those guys, man. It's just incredible. So we had just recently come off a jaunt with SEAL Team 3, and we were working in Egypt with their SEALs and their Army divers. And so a lot of bilateral engagements, training with other forces around the world, sharing best practices, and just in those engagements to foster relationships with other countries. Djibouti, it was crazy. We were in Djibouti, and we were the first team in Djibouti, and it was rough. And Somalia was going on, and we were trying to help them with their border, and they had incursions, and we're in Africa, and it's hot, and it's just AIDS has gone rapid now. All these things were happening, these atmospherics that were happening, but it's crazy because later Djibouti becomes central in the global war on terrorism.
Yeah. Everything logistically is going out of there. Yeah.
And it started with that first engagement and building that relationship and trust with Djiboutians that, we're here to help them. We're here for the long haul. That enabled them to do it, and SF guys were the first ones on the ground. So it was really cool.
Not to digress too much, but, as you did mention Africa, can you talk to me about your experience in Somalia in particular?
Most of my experience in Somalia came from Djibouti.
Okay.
So we were maintaining that border, helping the Djiboutians maintain that border. Mm-hmm. The teams that were in Somalia were pretty much confined after the Shogart event. Who else was it? It was the Delta Force guys that went down. But they were, once that happened, and it's kind of funny. It's kind of, we're kind of like that as Americans. Is when something catastrophic happens, we tend to pull back a little bit and kind of weigh ourselves and decide, is this what we want to continue to do, kind of effort. And that's what kind of happened in Somalia. And we were kind of at that point when that happened. And then the decision was to help Djibouti, Eritrea, and Ethiopia with their border and their incursions so that they weren't going to spill over to have the problems from the Somalis.
Yeah.
That's what our role was. And again, it becomes more unconventional at that point.
Africa is such a overlooked part of the world, and it's so strategically important from our perspective as Americans to have those solid relationships there to be able to ensure, logistics and continuity of supply. And there's so much there. Like, I hope that more attention is paid to Africa from a policy perspective. But anyways, so can you take me back to what it's like to be a leader in your role right before deploying to Afghanistan? Everyone was going to be looking to you for what was most important to you. What type of leadership also did you see coming out of that day outside of, your own examples at that time?
So I always wanted to maintain a calmness about the whole thing so that people were not, I don't know, it's funny, you get leaders sometimes and they're harried, they're agitated, or they're always, there's always something going on in their minds, and they're always trying to fix something, and it just creates this confused kind of atmosphere that I don't like. I don't enjoy that environment to work in, first of all. Second, I don't think it's conducive to conducting operations, because once the bullets start flying, you got to be calm to be able to assess how you want this fight to go. And so that's what I wanted to make sure my guys knew from me. And again, I just got there in July, so I wanted them to know that, hey, I've been in a fight before. We got this. And so that they're comfortable with that. And it's funny, it worked. And I was calm about it because I was working through the process to make sure my guys were taken care of first. And they saw that, and they realized that, and they appreciated it. And they fought like hell for me in every fight we had. I mean, they were all in. The other part was we had an XO for some reason that was a battalion XO. So the company and then a battalion over us. He just, for some reason, he was not on board with anything unconventional. And so he made it really difficult, because as an XO, you're dealing with the logistics and the supplies and the movement. And he was just too
traditional. Yeah.
And so he really didn't make that switch at all, and never did. And it showed, and people went around him to get things done. So that was kind of an anomaly, but there was that one guy. But the rest of us were pretty well ready to do this and calm about it. The funny thing is when we were actually going into Afghanistan, and we were in helicopters, and we're fighting the air to get over the New Kush Mountains. We're all loaded down, and I'm on the headset, and I'm tracking everything, and we hadn't slept, of course, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning now, and so I'm worried about everything. I'm a worry wart, but I don't let it show.
You don't let it show.
It comes from my mom. My mom's German. She worries about everything. And I'm the same way. Oh, Lord, I worry about it, but I don't let it show. So I'm going through everything, my checklist. I'm looking where we're at, how things going. We'll get to the point of no return. Okay, we're not going to come back. We're not going to land. We're going to get there. And I look over at these hardened Green Berets, so proud to be with them. And I think, my God, how did I get in this position, to be able to lead these men, these giant men, in this fight. And I felt awesomely proud. And they're all sleeping. They're all crashed out. Every one of them. Not a worry in the world. It's like we're just on a free ride in the helicopter.
Nice.
I'm like, these motherfuckers, look at these guys now. But that to me really symbolizes who we were as an organization, as a team, with all, my other officers and them. They were confident. They were confident in their leadership. Not only me, but my battalion, the group, General Mohon. They were confident that we were all doing the right thing, and that things were going to work out. So much so that they were just crashed out.
They're in good hands. They feel confident.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You are so grounded with your emotion, and any good leader needs to not show worry, of course. And I can see how that's such a big value to have that trait. But is that something that, you're kind of born with, is your ability to just have that emotional regulation, or is it something that you have to really work on?
I think you have to work on it. I think that the more dicey situations you're in, even in training, that helps work on that. So, and you see people flip out, over the smallest things, like in the infantry when I was an infantry officer, and pissed off and yelling and screaming and stuff. And there's a time for that. I'm not saying there's not. There's a time to get into people's ass and let's get it going because they're sloughing off. Absolutely. But there's also when things are at their worst, that's when you want to be at your calmest, because that's what's going to get you through. That's the way I believe. That's going to drive you through to accomplish the mission. So I think you have to work on it. Somebody told me one time, my platoon sergeant told me one time, he's like, "Hey, sir, let me just tell you something. I know you read all those leadership books, and I know you went through, your officer training and everything, but all the guys really need is for you to be you. It doesn't matter if you're quirky, if you're hard, whatever it is, maintain the standard, but be you. Use your personality to do that. Because you try to be somebody else, they'll read through that and they won't buy into anything you got." And that was probably one of the best advice I ever got as a young leader. Because I was like, man, I'm going to be Patton. I'm like, I can be, you know what I mean? You're filled with all this stuff in your head, this is how it's supposed to be. And then he's like, no, be yourself, but maintain the standard. And it's like, and that really set the stage for me, particularly in SF. Because when you're a young captain, you come in, you're with all these guys that are just highly qualified, and you try to be something you're not, you're not going to be a good, effective team leader. Not one bit. You don't have to be buddy-buddy with them. Absolutely not. You're the officer. You maintain the standard, but you got to be approachable. You've got to be who you are as a person and not try to put on some kind of bullshit persona. I've seen it fail hundreds of times.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it'll put other people at risk too.
Absolutely.
That authenticity. And then your judgment is flawed. because, what are you judging from the perspective of what? Wow. And I love that, he told you that. I love that you guys have the kind of relationship that, a subordinate will just come and talk to you like a brother, that bond that you have with your team. How do you describe it?
It's a strange bond because once we break up, we rarely get back together. But when we're together, it's tight. And
give me dynamics? Like, what are you talking about? What, is like...
Oh, like, we're a scuba team. We used to go and we just take naked pictures and jump in the water, naked. You don't even do that with your civilian buddies.
Right.
That's crazy shit right there. Like, who would do something like that?
Right.
But, it was just that's the kind of weird stuff that we would do. And just when we'd be gone on deployments, and we would sit around and we would talk about our families and what values we had, and who we were as people. We would have that time to really connect with each other in a personal level. In a unit, you normally don't have that time in the garrison because you're training, you're doing this, maybe you have a couple buddies and that's it. But when you're on an A team, you've got to be personable. You got to have relationships with each other because you have to trust each other a lot more because you're isolated. We were isolated in Kaos, Afghanistan. There was nobody coming to get us. We have air support. It's going to take some time to get there, but we have each other. That's it. And you got to count that each other is going to do the job. And we were totally confident that would happen. Not a single person that we doubt would not man the gun, as we said,
It seems to me as well, like, because there is nothing else. Like, I was talking to a friend that was saying that, like, there are no signs that the 21st century even existed in Afghanistan other than plastics, and what else did he say? Polyester, something like that, and it's like, but it's so primitive. It's so down to like the basics. You guys are just there bonding with each other. It's almost like, a true human experience. There are no distractions other than, when there is a major distraction, that's game on. But, it really, I think, is such a breeding ground for some of the strongest bonds to occur.
Yeah, and the trust, right? Like, I always think back, I trusted them implicitly, and I wonder if that caused them to trust me implicitly as their leader. If I distrusted them, would they trust me still? I don't think so. And part of that is we all had our roles, right? They had their roles to maintain the base camp, get everything ready to conduct operations. I had my role engaging our warlord, getting the Afghans leadership to get the Afghans to where we needed them, those type of things. And so we all understood that, and we trusted that each other would be able to do that. And it just came to my mind, I don't know why, but we had an incident in Kaos where we were at, and the city was starting to implode on us. And it was because a rival warlord came in, and my warlord's brother came in, Pachakan, who was a more dominant figure than Kamakan. So it was, and then there was some fighting going on amongst the warlords, and there was a lot of discussion from our higher to pull us out. And I was like, no, we don't do that. We got this. We'll take care of this. We'll figure this out. So Kamakan, we actually fought our way to his base camp and got to his base camp because he called for our help. And we got there and we set up, our guys set up security, and a couple of guys came with me. And that was the other thing, like, I would not think about it. I would just go. And then I wouldn't say something to my team like, hey, somebody come with me. Never did I ever say that. But it was always somebody with me.
That's true leadership right there.
And it's just like, I'm going. So I get out the gun truck and I start going to Comic-Con, and 2 of my guys are with me. They're like right there with me. And we get into his building and we link up with him and we're talking, and he's obviously frazzled, like just a mess. And his brother had done that to him. So he's trying to get me to stay overnight in his compound to help them. And I'm trying to get him to use his people to secure his compound. And that's what I'm telling him we're doing. And then my guys outside, that's what they were doing, putting them in the right positions. So he leaves the room and I hear a click. And he locks the door. I'm like, I get up, I check the door, and I'll be damned.
Wow.
I was like, this motherfucker thinks he's going to keep us in this room.
Yeah.
And my guys were like, you want me to kick it in? You want me to kick it in? You know, they're ready. We'll go after him. I'm like, no, we'll wait a little bit and see how this plays out. I said, we can get out of here. That's not the problem. And we had comms with my guys on the ground. So that wasn't the issue. My issue was trying to maintain that relationship with him, leverage his brother for other stuff, and then defeat the other warlord that was in town. So I needed the 2 brothers to get along.
Yeah.
So we waited a little while. Somebody came in, opened the door and brought us some chai and said that he's coming. I said, no, I need both of them, Comic-Con and Pachacon. And so we walked out in the hallway and we're kitted up. And I said, we're leaving unless you get me both of them. And then I said, then the relationship's done and you need to tell them that. So the translator runs over and and then all of a sudden both of them show up. And so now we sit down and we drink chai.
Now you're calling the shots.
Now I'm calling the shots.
I love it. Okay, Perry, when you're get me to coast with you guys, like when you first came in, you knew that you were going to link up with the warlord, but you had not met each other. You don't know anything really about this guy at that point, right? So talk to me about when you actually enter. Also, didn't you by accident, I don't even know if I should say this, but didn't you by accident almost invade another country?
Oh, no, I definitely did it.
You did invade it?
No, I definitely did.
Okay, so take me about, let's talk about those, funny moments of how you're like, oh, shit, I'm on the wrong side of the border. 1 and 2 is, the quick need to adapt as quickly as possible, with your new tools on the ground, namely horses, and then the rapport, the building the relationship. You talked about just now, Comic-Con being locking you into this room. How do you discern intent? And you are the leader at that point. So your team is relying on you to make the judgment call about this guy. You know nothing about him. And to just take me into those really analytical side of things.
So we first met the OGA guys and in Caos after the ambush, and a pause, and then we came back in, and because they decided that they didn't have the right warlord, so they were looking at another warlord, and so they figured, well, probably got the wrong warlord since we just got ambushed. So they kind of refit some stuff. Whatever they do as far as their analytics to figure out that it was more Comic-Con than it was Zahir, even though once I got on the ground, I actually was Zahir. I used Zahir a lot too, even though we had that incident with him.
What was the incident again?
The ambush going into OGA. They got ambushed right at the beginning, and the Special Forces medic that was killed on the pilot team. And that was, they believed it was because they had partnered with Zahir and not Kamal Khan and Pacha Khan. So
that was more internal rivalries going on with the tribal structure versus targeting Americans.
Correct. A great pickup. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah. A lot of tribal issues going on, especially in that area. Southeast Afghanistan is right on the border of Pakistan. It was the wild, wild west of warlords. And it's like, what the fuck is a warlord anyway? You know, when you think about it, it's like, what? And so when I met Kamal Khan, actually, I thought, what a pussy. I'm like, this guy? Really? That's not what I think of as a warlord. You know, I'm thinking Dostum. I'm thinking these are, and I'm got this guy. I'm like, come on, man. You couldn't have got me somebody better. But because he was Pacha Khan's brother, and Pacha Khan had a lot of influence in the Gardez, Kaust area, that's how they decided was the best thing. So when I first met him, that was my initial thought, like, this guy's a pussy, man. We're going to have to figure something out. And because he was no way able to influence much. And I realized that pretty quick. But I could leverage him to get what we needed, and that is a fighting force. That was my priority, get a fighting force. And we did. Within a week, we had 900 Muldoons, 900 Afghanis that showed up to fight with Americans.
Okay. Are they showing up for financial incentive?
Sure.
Or are they showing up because of...
I don't give a shit.
Okay. They're showing up.
Show up.
Okay.
I'll pay you. And I did, $30 a month, $1 a day, to pick up a weapon and fight.
Cash.
Crazy.
Yeah. How much cash did you sign for? Where it's just like, here's a paper, sign here.
Oh, yeah. So the agency guys, they had a kit bag. They flew in a kit bag of money, and they're like, hey, you need to sign for this. And this is like a tablet. I'm like, I'm in the Army, bro. We don't do that. You got to have a hand receipt. They're like, you want the money? I'm like, yeah. He goes, and you got to sign for it. I was like, well, how much is it? And they're like, it's $1 million. I'm like, $1 million fit in a kit bag? Really? So we're having this conversation.
Not really the volume I was expecting.
Yeah. And he's looking at me like I'm an idiot. Like, come on, Blackburn, let's go, And I'm like, no, I don't think there's $1 million in there, bro. And I'm going to sign this. He goes, look, I don't care what name you put on here. You can say John Hancock. I don't give a shit. But if you want this bag of money, you got to sign.
Yeah.
So I was like, John Hancock. I damn sure did. I was like, I'll test it.
Every other person.
And he went, okay, and threw the kit bag at me. I got the kit bag in. I told my team sergeant to count up the money. I'm an ARP sergeant. And it was $1.1 million. And we're all sitting around looking at that money. $1.1 million. That takes away a lot of debt back home. Well, we were joking about it,
Of course.
Because, we joke about anything. We joke about your mama's feet. It don't matter. Yeah. It's all open to a joke, And the 1.1 million lasted the entire trip. Jokes about that money was funny. That's what guys would do with that money,
What are some of the funniest things people would do with that money?
Oh, they were going to buy wives. And they had already made up what kind of wife they were going to buy.
Okay, what was the most popular?
The most popular wife was one that came from the Middle East, but she could show herself. Mm. And so because being in the middle, we go to the Middle East, and we never would see women because they're all, or especially.
So they want rebellious Arabs is what they want. That's what
That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
that was kind of funny. It's like, okay, really? Yeah, and plus you can have more than one wife.
Yeah.
Really? That's what you do with the money? And it's, some dudes, they'd go, somebody'd say, I think I'd buy a new truck. And we went, that's bullshit, man. Come on, you could come up with something better than that,
Yeah, you need something that increases in value. A truck isn't it.
Truck ain't it, man. So anyway, we $1.1 million, and we would, we used that money to pay for our army that we made, over 900 people, and we brought in weapons. The CIA gave us AK-47s, cold weather gear, and I remember the first day we went out to see the 900 troops, I was like, damn, this is pretty cool, and I'm really in command now. Like this,
Got yourself.
I'm giving my guys shit too. I'm like, you guys need to find a new commander. That's my new command. I got more people there. Yeah. They're like, so we just funny shit. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that bunch of people, this guy stands up, tall guy, bearded, and he starts marching to the front, like marching. And he reports to me in Afghan, in Pashtun. I look at the translator. He said, he's reporting to you. He's telling you how many people you have. You have 959 people, and they're ready to go to war, but they need. I'm like, damn, who is this guy? And so turns out he fought for the Russians. And so he was militarized with the Russians. And he was really the guy that was the first sergeant in charge of all those guys. And it was really cool. I was like, man, this is a really cool moment. And so we talked to him, and I told him to break up the guys, and we got our teams broke up, and we're going to put them with the teams, and we're going to start training. He made an about face, started barking out orders. Line stood up, line went that way, barked out, line was stood up, line went that way. I was like, oh yeah, we got this.
So you mentioned something interesting, seeing as some of them were already trained by the Russians. Was there any unraveling of techniques or anything that you had to do, or was it like, oh yeah, we're good? Like, it's good that they had that background.
To be honest, at that time, what we needed them for was presence, right? We needed people to know that they were on our side. Tactically, we were doing the tactics. We were calling in air, and then we would maneuver them ourselves into positions. So we didn't really rely on them and their tactics. So we, at that point, didn't care. And the times that we, like Anaconda and other stuff that we were doing operations, they were controlled by the SF teams. And I would control the air and the tactics on the ground, and we would maneuver based off of that. And I'm talking to my guys who are maneuvering them. And actually, it's kind of how we got in trouble in Pakistan is, first of all, we're using Russian maps to call in air, and which is difficult in itself, right? So there's no, who knows what where the border is, and quite honestly, I didn't care because we were closing in on the enemy, and we were pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, and we kept pushing them. And I knew we were going toward Pakistan. I just didn't know we were like actually in Pakistan. And so we were fighting in Pakistan, and then so they were reinforcing from Pakistan. So, I mean, it was a good 3-day fight where we're pushing them. They're bringing in reinforcements. We're fighting. We're getting ground. But with our Afghan partners, they would control the ground. We'd bring them up. We got the ground. We go to the next fight, and we were. It was like the third day, and we were coming through this wadi and coming up on this like a little ridge line, and all of a sudden it was like it was the weirdest thing. It was a flood that came in, and the wadi was flooding. Oh, no. And so these Afghan dudes, they don't know how to swim.
Oh, no.
They don't know anything. They're there and they're freaked out. And they're just crawling to get up on the high ground. And now my SF guys are grabbing, Afghanis, and we're big dudes, right? We're tossing these dudes. And so the fight kind of stops, and we're trying to push these guys up. And then all of a sudden, I'm standing there, and I got my weapon on the ground, and I key the mic to talk to one of the teams to find out what they're doing. And the next thing I know, I felt like somebody hit me in the back with a baseball bat. And I hit the ground. And I was like, damn, how did they get behind us? I thought I got shot. Now remember, we're not wearing any vests, ballistic vests or anything. We're in civilian clothes. We're in Afghan clothes.
Yeah.
With beards, no vests, no nothing. So I was convinced that I just got shot.
Right in the back.
Right in the back. I was like, God darn it. And then mentally, I was like, how did I let that happen? But at the same time, I had this metallic taste in my mouth that I was convinced was blood.
Yeah.
And so I'd kind of convinced myself I couldn't move. And so I'm sitting on all fours, knees and hands. I'm looking down and I smell like burning hair and stuff. And I'm like, damn, I think I'm on fire. I really did get shot bad, and this is all going really quickly in my mind. And I can like smell singed hair and taste the metallic in my mouth. I'm like, God damn, I'll never walk again. And I hear somebody chattering in my ear, just, and I'm like, what? And it's my commo man. He's like, sir, Blackburn, Major Blackburn. I'm like, what? He goes, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, man, I think I got shot. He goes, no, man. That shit was awesome. I'm like, what? Because you lit up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, sir, you got to stand up. You got to get up. And you got to do it on your own. I'm like, are you sure? He goes, yeah. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? So I'm like, okay. And he goes, just start moving. Just start moving. And so I did. I start moving. I'm like, hey, okay. And so I get up on my knees. I lift myself up. I look around. And everybody there was just stone cold like, what the fuck did I just witness? The Afghanis, they were praying. They thought something spiritually had just happened. My commo guy goes, he lives! But what had happened was we got hit by lightning, and when I had keyed the mic and I had put my M16 on the ground, my M4 rather. It shows my age. I started with M16s. I had an M4. It hit my antenna, went through me, went through the weapon, hit the ground. They saw it roll on the ground and hit a little tree.
Oh my
little bush.
God.
And then they saw me go down and they're like, oh, he's dead. He's dead. There's no way. And it was like smoke too, I mean, the whole thing was just the way they explained it. And then for me to like rise from the ashes
and stand up on your knees and you're up. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
And you know what? All I had to do was look at those guys and go,
this is what you'll do.
And then run, man. They did not.
No one is messing with you.
Nobody messed with me after
that commo guy, though, it's so funny, though, too. Like, man, that was awesome. Like, what else are you going to
Exactly. And that's that's when it goes back to the relationship you have with them, like who would say some shit to somebody that just got hit by lightning like that, But he was like, that was awesome. That was the coolest shit.
Just hearing the story, that's the most incredible thing I've ever heard, honestly.
It was
and you
nuts.
live. You live.
I lived. It was pretty wild. So that goes back to that whole relationship thing and what we were doing. But eventually, I get my radio man, my commo guy. I shouldn't call him a radio man. He'd be really pissed if I said that. My comms guy. It was like, hey, sir, Shark, my battalion commander wants to talk to you, Cobra 5-6, like right now. And I'm like, wow, what's going on? He goes, apparently we're in Pakistan. I'm like, yeah.
So the lightning strike incident happened in Pakistan? Of course it did. Of course it freaking did. Okay.
It's just like, what would have happened? So I get on the horn and get on the. He's like, we've got the UAVs. We didn't call them UAVs at the time. What do we call them? Anyway, we got the UAV. We know your location, and you need to turn around and come back. You are in Pakistan. I'm like, and I'm thinking, it's not bothering the Air Force guys because they're damn sure dropping bombs in Pakistan too. Do they have to go back too, or is it just me? And so I'm like, so I came up with something. Sir, we're working through this. We're engaging. We got this and this happening. We're closing in on it. We might have Bin Laden here for all I know. Just and so it's just like so the radio went quiet for a while, and we started moving again into Pakistan, and that radio popped up right away. He goes, "You're going the wrong way." like I got to turn around. so I make this huge turn and fighting the enemy as we kind of come back into Afghanistan. But yeah, it was.
Yeah, navigation must be so hard. I mean, old Russian maps.
Yeah, we didn't have GPS.
Nobody had, exactly. It was still early 2000s, but also nobody had, successfully mapped out this region. And
who the hell knew there was a border there? I mean, and really, honestly, I didn't really care because we were like really, truly, engaged on the enemy, fighting the fight. And then
talk to me about.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
No,
tell me.
No, you tell me.
Your first engagement. Can you talk about that?
Like my very first engagement was in Panama as a young captain, and we were running down some bad guys, and it was in Cologne, Panama, and one of the guys had rounded a corner, and we were like almost face to face. And so I squeezed off 3 rounds, and he went down. Boom. And I remember thinking, oh, he's okay, right? Like, he's just bullshitting me. But he was like immediately dead. And that kind of was like, wow, for a moment there was like, that's kind of hard to believe that's how it works, And unfortunately, it was his family lived close to the building. And so when everything was settled and we called in an ambulance, his family came out, and the whole neighborhood erupted. And so I was trying to get him on a gurney, but the drivers wouldn't get out. So I got the gurney out. I came over. I put the guy up on the gurney, and his family's wailing. But he was a bad guy. He had a gun too. I mean, it was me or him, and he had already shot one of the Panamanians. So it wasn't like this was, a good guy. It's just a bad situation, bad guy in a bad situation, and in his neighborhood with his family. And I got him on the gurney, and then some Panamanian Defense Forces came, and they were helping me with the crowd, and I was trying to get him into the ambulance to take him to the morgue. and get him out of this situation. And PDF, the Panamanian Defense Force, starts shooting their shotguns in the air, and they start pointing at the guys, at the people, and it's just getting bad really quick. And so I got him to the ambulance, and I got the ambulance driver out, and then I left. I went back to our office area, which was a jailhouse in Cologne. We worked out of the jail. It wasn't very long after that the radios started erupting. So the neighborhood and the family, takes him off the gurney, and they lift him up, and they start walking him down Avenida Central, the Central Avenue, and they come right to the jailhouse we're at, and it's a wall compound, and they're rioting, throwing Molotov cocktails. It's just they put the body at the front gate, and the Panamanian Defense Forces are shooting at them. We're throwing smoke in the crowd. We're trying to get him off. I open the gate and I drag the guy inside. And I'm like, man, am I ever going to be free of this guy? And so I put him in the back of a car that's in the compound, and we go to the back of the compound and go to the hospital and drop him off. And that's my first real engagement where I was a young captain. I was an SF, and I was attached to 7th Group at the time during Just Cause. It was right after Just Cause, where I actually, killed somebody. And then, the other engagements in Afghanistan were just follow-up to that. In Iraq, the same way. And some of it was with air support. Some of it was with my own weapon system. But I don't really have issue with that. And it's kind of strange. I mean, I don't have issue with people that have died that were trying to kill me. I don't have issue because that's what I was there to do for my country. I believe that to this day. And it probably took some really bad people off this earth, and I'm okay with that too. So those engagements aren't something that bother me. They don't keep me up at night. At times I think about it, and I think that's human, but I don't think about it in that, oh my God, what have I done? I think of it more as it's a sad thing that we had to do that. It sucks, and it'd be in my memory, but I'm okay with it.
Perry, do you ever kind of question what got him to that situation?
Yeah, but you see now, as long as I've been around, and you look at today's world, look at our country right now, the hatred that people have for each other. So hatred comes quick. I mean, the hatred I had after 9/11, I mean, I wanted to take that hatred with me, and I wanted retribution for America and for the lives that were killed. Senseless lives that were killed on 9/11 in the Pentagon also. And that was hatred. And I learned that, it's not a hatred for everybody. It's a hatred for the people that have done that. But in today's world, it's weird. It seems like there's a hatred for people over their opinions and philosophies and thought. And I don't remember really having that before. It's kind of weird. So going back to that full circle, when I think about it, I think that how these people got there is through some level of hatred, right?
Yeah.
And whether it be made up by someone that influenced them, or it's something that they felt themselves. And So again, I have issue that we're like that as people, and it would be great to figure out how to fix that, and certainly live a lot more communal amongst each other. But it doesn't seem, there'll be evil in the world.
As you're speaking, I was just thinking kind of big picture of how, post 9/11, post any attack, what sort of brews up that anger, it's a reactionary situation. Like the hatred that we had post 9/11 was a reaction to being attacked. But listening to, as you're speaking now as well, I was thinking of like that young indoctrination that happens where hatred is taught at such a young age. And what is worrisome is that once that hatred becomes part of a curriculum or part of, you belong to this group and not that group, as we're starting to see in more subversive tactics of hatred employment across the United States, that's very worrisome because, it's not reactionary. It's not you did this and so this, cause and effect. It's, it's predetermined. And that should be a warning to many people. My hope in also having these conversations is to really have an audience that has an open mind and is willing to hear the experiences of heroes and veterans and people in the national security and foreign policy space and business, that you can kind of get into their mindset of what are the decisions that we've taken and why, and for better or worse, this is the world we're leaving our kids with,
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, that was a bit of a tangent, but
I like it. It's good. Yeah.
It's just kind of
exactly right. Yeah.
my thoughts. Back to sort of discerning intent and the warlord, the weak warlord that you were with. How are you ensuring the safety of your teammates?
It's hard to say how safe were we, how secure were we. We were not very safe. We weren't really secure. We're surrounded by bad guys. We are paying a force and trying to train them to be professional soldiers, which wasn't going to happen, but we're training them and trying to keep their trust and loyalty. And they could have turned on us at any time. And it happened quite often later in both Iraq and Afghanistan, where they actually turned on their American counterparts and killed them. When I was in Iraq, my last deployment, 2010 and 2011, that exactly happened to one of our teams that was training. We had this training event. We're bringing guys in, and we're conducting operations with them, and they turned on them and they killed 2 guys. So you're not really safe, and you're not really secure, and particularly in a UW environment, it's very different. You're not living on a FOB, a forward operating base, that's surrounded by MPs and walls and all this other things to help secure you. You are literally living out amongst the people. So we're even myself, we're pulling shifts for security. We brought in a Marine platoon so that they could secure certain parts. But we're not really secure, and we're not really safe. And we live that way the entire time.
So talk to me about trust. Do you have trust issues? Have you?
I don't really trust you that much. No, I'm just the opposite. I'm the worst. I trust people right away. And it's one of my, if I was in an interview and they said, hey, tell us, something, that liability about yourself or a weakness. And I'd go, yeah, I trust people way too easy. And they'd be like, yeah, no, that's funny, but that's not what we're looking for. But I'm like, yeah, for me, in my business, that was a liability. And I think my guys knew that, and they would protect me against that. And I think
How would they protect you against that?
They would tell me, like, hey, sir, you sure you want to be talking to this guy? Or they would be with me when they knew that wasn't the right guy for me to be around.
They got your back.
Yeah, always. And I think they just intuitively knew that, hey, Perry's just one of those guys that just trust people. He will just walk into a firefight thinking that everybody will stop. And that's kind of how it was in Afghanistan in 2021 when we were trying to get people out. Was I trusted the Afghans that were talking to me, telling me they needed a way out. And my betting system was different than everybody else's. Mine was, you got a hold of me, I'm going to help you. The guys in my network, same thing. I'm sure they're like, fucking Perry, man. He's just trusting everybody. This guy is not, hey, Perry, this guy, he has no credentials. And I'm like, okay, all right. Because we wanted, at that time, you had to have a legal pathway to some country. Part of that description was you have had to have a work or a job with Americans to come to America. You had to prove that. You had to prove that you were a translator. And the crazy thing is, what we would do was we would give our translator certificates from our groups and our companies with fake names, but they held on to those certificates. And when 2021 happened,
that came into play. I love it. But so the fake names, why did you do that? Out of their own personal protection?
Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, the trusting part, it's always interesting to me as well. Like there are certain people where it's like, you trust someone because you are mirroring your own intent, your own self, like, oh, I wouldn't do this. But then you're kind of like, oh God, like I wasn't expecting that because, you just like, you have to start thinking a little different so as to not, like project your own bias or intent onto a situation. And like, I've come to learn to be less trusting.
Yeah, but I think, and I am too, right? But I think that's okay because, I mean, how else are you going to get to know each other? At the end of the day, how do I get to know somebody, or how do you get to know me if I'm not going to trust you? I rarely give people second chances, though. I mean, that's kind of it, and I move on from that. So that's kind of my value system or cut line. Screwed me over, and we don't really need to have a relationship then. Right? Now, if you make a mistake, we all make mistakes in lives, in our lives. And you come back, hey, man, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Well, yeah, let's figure that out. But if you're like maliciously trying to fuck me over, that's it. We're done.
Done.
Because you have broke my trust, as we say.
Yeah.
But I take that like that is it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it's, certain things that you say talk a little bit more deeply into me. And so I appreciate that. So with the trust aspect, I was wondering, how much do you trust your own intuition, or how much do you question it?
No,
intuition.
I trust my intuition.
Yeah.
I will question decisions constantly to refine them, make sure that but I rarely will change the course that we're on just out of sake of change. I think it's one of the habits we have in the military that is really, really bad. We are not comfortable with executing the plan that we spent days, months on. Right when we start executing the plan, we want to change it. I'm just the opposite. And the reason is, I found, is that you planned something, you rehearsed it, people know it. Stick with it. We don't know if it's going to fail or succeed, but if we haven't even given it a chance and you're already changing it, then we know it's not going to succeed. But I feel comfortable in our training that we have come up with a good plan. And so I am not one of the guys that are ready to change on a whim the plan. I'm ready to execute what we got. Everybody knows a plan, fight the fight. And then as we're engaging, we have to adapt to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like little tweaks. Can you talk about a time where your intuition played a role on the battlefield?
I guess Anaconda, I knew that we needed to set up where these major avenues of approach are going into the Shahi Coat Valley, which was most of the activity. And if we could stop the bleeding out and in, the logistics coming in and the enemy coming out, we would have a better chance of winning that fight. And then, so we did that and it worked. And then the second thing was kill Pachachan.
Oh, you wanted to kill him?
Yeah.
He was too influential?
Yeah.
Did his brother know that?
No.
Okay. Did he succeed?
No. Oh. I tried.
What, just like a jackrabbit keeps getting away? Or
yeah.
did he know you were after him?
Oh, yeah. After a while, he knew because because whenever he would show up, I'd go after him. And he was just hard. He was just a hard guy to get. But he attacked Gardez. And when we had one of our teams there for himself, he was all in for himself.
Pachachan's attack on Gardez was an act of revenge. The government had failed to keep a promise to appoint him governor, and he responded by shelling the town, killing 25 people, many of them children. He is now a wanted man. With the police, US Special Forces, and Afghanistan's fledgling National Army after him, Pachachan believes he's living on borrowed time. He is understandably wary of visitors, but agreed to meet with Dateline. He sent his brother to guide us to him. The commander of the Joint Task Force acknowledges Pachachan's early role in the war against Al Qaeda, but the warlord's usefulness appears to have run its course.
I should point out that Pachachan Zadran has indeed helped at certain points in the fight against terrorists. He has helped the coalition. He has not helped the coalition much for about the last 8 months or so. In fact, he's been problematic in that I would describe him almost as a nuisance.
Twice in the past month, US Special Forces have opened fire on Pachachan's men.
I think that he has been disenfranchised by the central government. I believe he has been ostracized by a number of his fellow tribesmen. I think he is an unwelcome persona down in the Gardez host area.
This isolated outpost, controlled by a warlord angry at America, no longer felt safe. In the standoff between the central government and Pachachan, the government is now threatening more direct action.
He was trying to control Kaust. He was just a bad guy. I mean, he was just a bad guy, and he had affiliations, and he even told stories about him killing people that were unnecessary to keep them in line. I mean, that's his loyalty was his. When we talked and we were engaging, he was telling me that he kills people that gets out of line.
Are disobedient.
Yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm after you.
What is the differences in the value of life between the American perspective and an Afghan one?
I think Americans value life a lot more. The Muslim world is still very much inshallah, it's up to God, God's will.
Fatalistic.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think even as a Christian, even as a believer in Jesus Christ and God, and there's this aspect from us of if somebody dies, particularly in our family, we always, why did this happen? Why did it have to happen? I mean, we're looking right now at these horrendous floods in Texas, and we're all saying the same thing. It's not mine to question, but it is ours to question. You know, it's just for us as Americans, just we hate that, to see that happen. Except, I guess, for that one pediatrician who's out of her. But the rest of us are just devastated by seeing that. And I think that part of the world is more of God's will, and they kind of move on. We bury our dead 6 feet down. We have gravestones. Visit them. And that's not part of their culture. You know, they get their dead off the battlefield. They bury them in shallow graves, and that's the end of it. The war, you know, I do a lot of stuff in Ukraine, try to help feed and get medical supplies in Russian-occupied areas, because it's just a shit show. It's just horrible. And the death and devastation that's going on there, it's kind of the same thing, is that they leave their dead on the battlefield. We will expose ourselves to danger, to gunfire, to shelling, to get one of our guys out of that's dead back to us. We will do whatever we can. And they won't. They'll just leave them. And this is in Ukraine. The Russians just leave their dead on the battlefield, and the Ukrainians just mass graves everywhere. And the only reason they're burying them is because it's
the hygiene.
The hygiene, yeah.
So, Perry, there were also some incidents that must have been really heavy to have to deal with, and one of them would have been the friendly fire incident that happened. Which ODA was it? Try to remember the number.
It was actually a predatory Prosser was on that team. Gosh, I can't remember the number. It was a battalion. It was kind of a battalion headquarters with the team that was there.
That morning is December 5th. That morning, the evening of December 4th and December 5th, we'd got some more folks that came in from the military, kind of beefed up our size and our strength, which played an important role later in that day. So it's December 5th. It's a clear blue sky day. We could look up all the time and see every day. We would see the B-52 flying over our head. At this particular point in the conflict, Karzai had already been voted in absentia by the Bonn Conference to be the interim president of Afghanistan, but he was still with us. And the cost was pushing the Kandahar, negotiate the surrender with the Taliban, and then get him up to Kabul to be inaugurated. So he can become the interim president, and obviously we didn't know he was going to be the president for the next 12 years at that point. But he was our guy. Mm-hmm. So a lot was being put in behind the whole push on Karzai. So that morning, it was supposed to, we'd had a couple rough days leading up to that, a couple of minor engagements and stuff like that. And we got some new guys in that morning on the mill side, and they were doing these air recce missions and dropping bombs in caves. Pretty standard stuff. I mean, they do this all the time. So I'm sitting there in our little ops room on a footlocker, and about 9 o'clock that morning, unfortunately, there is a miscommunication between the air controller and B-52, and they end up dropping a 2,000-pound JDAM on top of our own position. So it lands right outside the area of this little building. Man, it had a plexiglass window because we made a comment that it was actually kind of a pseudo-real building. It actually had some sort of glass in the windows. So it's the first point, it was like, oh, this is nice, you know? And it's a really tiny little building. And that was the side where the blast came through. Now, I was just about to walk out the building and walk up to the little hill that's next to the building where the ODA was at to swap out. I had borrowed the night vision goggles of Master Sergeant Davis, J.D. Davis, the night before, and I was going to give them back to him. And our team chief, Greg, grabbed me. I was about ready to do that. And he goes, I'm going to walk out there anyhow. I'll give him to JD. And then I need you to start, writing some of this stuff up. What's been going on the last 5 days. And so our correspondence, our cables back. I said, okay. So I sat down and Greg goes up there and I could see him out the little window and then I start typing on my laptop and I'm sitting on a footlocker, which is important. I'll tell you here in a second. And then I see Greg gets called by Karzai, who's in the building, little tiny building right next to us. Come down and see him. So Greg comes back right across, runs right in front of me. And this bomb comes in on top of us. And we, at the time, I didn't know it was a 2,000-pound J-down. I just thought, we had gotten some probes the day before. I thought, first of all, there's no time to react. It's just like, I just heard this sucking sound. And then, my world got rocked like it's never been rocked before. A lot of guys were wounded. I can't name them all. A lot of guys learned. A lot of Afghans were killed and wounded, seriously wounded. JD was, the bomb physically landed at JD's feet. That's where I was supposed to be standing next to, because I was going to take his night vision goggles back to him that morning, when I started the story. And plus, the ODA made a good cup of coffee in the morning, so I was going to have my canteen cup. I was going to have a cup of coffee. But I got it intercepted, and so I didn't do that. So I'm not standing next to JD. Dam was blown in half. And Cody Prosser was, went through triage, and he was by the docks. He was labeled expectant. His brain was so swollen up in his head, and he died on helicopter. And a bunch of guys got seriously wounded. Lifestyle type stuff, really seriously wounded. Obviously, the guy on the gurney with the rock, but there were other guys.
Not all the men on ODA 574 came home. And the big question is, was it worth it? Was it worth dying for?
And we didn't really, to this day, I don't think we really know what happened. There's all this speculation. I think at the end of the day, we felt really horrible about our guys that were killed. The other thing that we were kind of still to this day is like, what really happened? Like, how did you mess up and put a bomb on yourself? How did that happen? And there was some, a bunch of rumors going around about this guy might have said this guy gave this coordinate and things. So we really don't know. I do know though that any loss of life amongst our people is tough to get over. It sticks with you the whole deployment, and it probably pretty much sticks with you your whole life. But it also kind of cements your resolve at the same time in what you're doing. Right? You want that person's injury or death to mean something. And our politicians don't understand that. And that's why August 2021 and the Biden administration is still very, very sore in my craw, because it wasn't just about how we did it, the debacle. It's about exactly what I just said. And that is, we want the people that sacrifice the most to mean something. And you showed me it doesn't mean anything. I can't accept that as an American. and neither can any of my buddies. We cannot accept the fact that that administration did what they did, that 13 Americans, service people, were killed during that debacle of a withdrawal, which turned into a retreat. And nobody was held accountable.
Isn't that incredible? No one was held accountable.
Nobody.
And there were some serious violations that happened, such as destroying passports. Can you kind of get into that?
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm not going to begin by belaboring any points. The president's withdrawal was a complete and utter catastrophe. The images of people hanging off of planes and desperate parents handing their babies over the airport walls to soldiers are seared into our country's collective conscience. Yesterday, every member of this committee in this room, Republican and Democrat, voted to require the State Department to come up with a plan for reimbursing the numerous outside groups who had to get involved to rescue Americans from Afghanistan. I can guarantee that private citizens flying 7,000 miles across the world to rescue Americans and those that worked alongside America for 20 years was not a product of the State Department's good planning and order. That was a product of chaos and a failure to plan as a direct result of, in my opinion, a failure to plan. Not bad luck, bad planning. America mourns 13 of its sons and daughters. We have families sitting in our audience who mourn the loss of their sons and daughters. I've had numerous conversations with the families. And what I've extracted from those conversations is there's nothing that can bring back anybody's children. My colleague, we've lost friends. You all have lost friends. There's nothing that can bring back anybody that we've lost. We look for solace in how we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. That's, to be frank, that's what I've heard from the families. How do we make sure that something like this never happens again?
Talk to me about the specific experience of seeing a failed withdrawal, but also losses of life and sabotage.
It's maddening because if I would have, 13 of my guys would have been killed in an operation and I would have survived, I would have been hung out to dry. And I should have been. I should be court-martialed and to find out exactly what I did wrong as a commander. Absolutely should be. I expect it to happen because I failed as their leader. These guys got promoted.
They got promoted?
They got General Donahue's now a 4-star general, you know, and he might be a great guy. I'm a great guy. I think of myself as a pretty damn good guy. But buddy, if I failed like that, exactly what I said, I've got to stand for that. None of them did. You let the enemy in your defensive perimeter, the Taliban in your perimeter.
How in the hell did that happen? I don't what, from your perspective, and a lot of people listening have no idea what we're talking about right now. So take me to that situation. How are you seeing this unfold and what the hell happened?
So I saw in the summer, July, the same summer, 2021, right before supposedly there was this pullout, something was wrong because the last American commander was taken out of Afghanistan and there was no American commander. And I was like, that's not good. Because we've got troops on the ground. So I was kind of really watching this situation unfold. Then we, as everybody in the world sat and watched all of a sudden video of Afghans hanging on airplanes as they took off HKIA, Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul. And everybody had to go, what is, I did, I was like, oh, this is even worse than I thought. Like, this is, what kind of extraction is it? What kind of withdrawal is this? So that was the beginning of the withdrawal that nobody really knew about until we saw those pictures. So they on the ground knew, obviously the Afghans knew Americans were leaving, and they did not want to be left with the Taliban. So that means if they knew that, the Americans knew that the Taliban were going to take over, which is who we'd been fighting for 20 years. So now we're going to...
They have such a resurgence.
The leaders were never killed off. And remember, we repatriated, supposedly, I wouldn't say repatriated, but we gave them back.
Yeah.
Picture this. It was a Saturday evening, and I'm out with some friends, and Pakistan's a weird country. It's just very different. There's a whole bunch of different societies. But anyhow, we're out, and I get a phone call, and it was CENTCOM, the Central Command Headquarters, and some major I'd never heard of. She introduced herself as Kathy Cadell. She's a major in the MP's reserves, and I am to sign for and release to the Pakistanis somewhere, I think it was about 45 detainees from Gitmo, war on terrorism prisoners, the next day.
And what was your position at this time?
I was the senior military officer. I was the United States Defense Rep to Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the senior guy there. Ryan Crocker was the ambassador at the time, and he's a great guy. But so I'm like, okay, how do I do this? What's the procedures? And she goes, well, we hope you take really good notes because we've never done this before. These are the first detainees to come out of Gitmo. She goes, the C-17 will land at Islamabad Airport at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. Good morning is kind of quiet out there. And you will meet a general, and I forget the guy's name, but he was the general and pretty high up in their version of the CIA, their ISIS or whatever they call themselves. I forget. I didn't really
think it's ISI.
ISI,
yeah. That would be another.
ISIS is a whole different. ISIS is a whole different thing. Although the detainees, but I said, okay, General, let's go get these guys off the airplane, and we get a coaster bus, and we're heading out to the airplane. And I said, whoa, you need some guards with us. He'd left all the guards back in the thing, and he goes, we don't need guards. We're welcoming them home.
Now again, culturally, now they're even more pissed at Americans.
Bro, and then do you remember like that was actually in last out as well when they were like that line, and I've heard it time and time again, you have all the watches, but we have all the time. Yeah. And that gets to my bones. It gives me a chill when I hear that. That with the Taliban is a perfect example.
Yeah, absolutely. And they bided their time. And what we needed was a generational change. Those old dudes needed to die. And, they ain't living very long anyway. So 20 years is another 10, 15 years, they would have died off. A new generation, a younger generation of people. We were already seeing some really good movement. But again, culturally, they're not going to go against these senior guys. They're just not going to do it. And we understand that because we're on the ground, but you can't express that enough to these people in the administration and these positions in our government that are making decisions that really don't want to hear from you.
Because you're truth tellers.
Yeah. I don't want to hear that. That's not what I want to do.
It's like, can I fact check you for a second? No, you can't. We have a policy. We have a bigger picture that, they want to drive. Iraq is a great example of that.
Iraq's great. I'm smarter than you. When I was one of the last guys in Iraq also. And the crazy thing was we had to write an assessment, and all of our assessments were, they're not ready to defend themselves against an external threat. They're just now getting their feet under the ground for an internal, and things are working pretty good. We really don't have a lot of military people here. Let's just maintain what we have until they can get their force established so they can defend themselves against an external threat. The same leaders, think about this, that were in the administration in Iraq, that were in the military, were the same leaders that were in the withdrawal of Afghanistan, and the same shit happened. ISIS came over, put women in cages, and sold them and none of them
They also put
gave
other
shit.
Muslims in cages and burned them alive.
And burned them alive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not like some apostate Yazidi girl that's put in and sold,
No.
across the border. No, this is like they will do it to themselves.
Absolutely.
Um,
And it wasn't just Yazidi women either.
right, correct. That's just what got the press lines.
Yeah.
The coverage.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was women. They wanted to buy women and enslave them, and they burnt Muslim men.
How do you feel about
Enraged. Fucking enraged.
to
to this
just,
day.
like when
Because
you
it
think
had to
about
mean
it.
something.
Like when I look at Syria and HTS, probably our guy from the start, but it's just mind-boggling to see that the same leadership is given an opportunity when this is the same leadership that oversaw killing and attacks on Americans and beheadings. It's all one and the same. It's hard to swallow that pill when you're there and and you know who these guys are. And so I feel like that's probably one of the biggest betrayals to the veteran community is like, you put in blood, sweat, tears, all of it. And in the end, it's just for what?
Right. And that goes back to what we said that started this conversation, was it the loss of American life has to mean something.
Yeah.
And it has to mean something to the people that we elect. And it didn't. Everything that we did, our time, it's just lip service, really. It's like Biden checking his watch, I mean, maybe he did it, I give him a break on it, but it's all about that time, right? You said it from the thing, and here we are, and we've given everything we can, and now we're just in a total shit show. The State Department has panicked, so they're destroying everything. Now, here's the other thing. Afghanis don't have paperwork. Most of them don't know how old they are. They have no idea how old they are.
I've got a thumbprint.
Yeah. And so when we
It's
came, exactly. They can't read. They can't write. They got a Quran. They don't know what it says. They're just told what it says. They when I was there, they looked at me and they were like, "How old are you to be in charge of all this?" And surprised that I was so young, and that I actually knew how old I was. And I'm like, "Well, how old are you?" And they're like, I think I've been around for 30 years, I think, somewhere like that. They didn't know. So we started instituting that paperwork. They got birth certificates. Guys became U.S. citizens, and they'd go back and, former Afghan nationals become U.S. citizens. They go back to Afghanistan. They work as translators. Their wives and kids, no paperwork. Culturally, again, you still, even though you're an American citizen, you didn't take care of your wife because she doesn't need it. Now, the place is falling apart and you want to get them out of Afghanistan, and guess what the State Department's saying? Well, we can't take anybody without any paperwork. Well, two things. You destroyed it, right?
Is this fact?
In the embassy? Absolutely is fact. You destroyed it in the embassy.
What did they destroy?
Passports and visas. And I know that because people went back to the embassy that had their passports and visas there, that wanted to get a visa for their family because they saw it coming. There were those. And they couldn't get it because they destroyed it. And then even the government came out and said that they had to. Because the Taliban was taking over. So you remember the helicopter landed by the State Department, everybody rushed in, they got out. And then when we were trying to get people, U.S. citizens particularly, out that were outside of the wire, try to get them inside HKIA to get on an airplane and come back to the States. Now their wife and kids, they don't have any paperwork. So now we're trying to do that on the ground as all this is happening. And God bless many people in the State Department. They saw what had happened, and so they were working feverishly. God bless those Marines that were on the wire, on those HESCO barriers. They absolutely was doing the Lord's work, trying to pick people out that had passports and get them inside the wire and get them processed. And we touched over 2,000 people manifested. We put on manifests to get out, and every one of those were legitimate people.
Talk to me about the logistics of being able to accomplish that. I'm amazed at the loyalty that you all displayed and how quickly you and your, friends from the community ended up coming together to give gateway and passage to people that were loyal to you. It
was incredible. It was divine intervention. I think the good Lord had a hand in it, because people from all walks of life came together. I put my phone number, who I was, out on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, my phone number, everything. Contact me if you need help. What I didn't realize was people were going to contact me to help. And so I started organizing these networks. Scott Mann and I were in Pineapple Express. He started that with his trying to get one family out. Well, it became bigger for me, so I was running 5 on Signal Chat networks of people working with each other to get people into HKIA. Then Mazar Sharif. I set up a nonprofit organization because I knew we were going to need money to lease aircraft, and we did. And we got people that were rightfully manifested, vetted with the proper information on these aircraft and into Abu Dhabi. And that lasted up until the suicide bomb at the Abbey Gate.
The Pentagon tonight after its investigation into the horrific blast at the Kabul airport during the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The report now finding the carnage was caused by a single attacker who appeared at the crowded Abbey Gate with a powerful bomb packed with ball bearings. The Pentagon releasing the only known footage of the blast itself. Here tonight, our Chief Global Affairs Correspondent, Martha Raddatz.
The danger had been building for days. Desperate Afghans trying to get out, U.S. Marines trying to help while securing the Kabul airport. This image is what the bomber would have seen approaching the airport's Abbey Gate on that August afternoon. Masses of people lining a canal. And for the first time, we see the suicide blast itself. It is only a few seconds and some 50 yards away, but slow it down and you see a lone figure dressed in black who investigators now say was the bomber. And 3 minutes after the blast, a U.S. drone records the catastrophic aftermath. 13 U.S. service members, mostly Marines, killed, 170 Afghans by the ball bearings propelled by 20 pounds of explosives on the bomber. Surviving Marines gathering up the wounded and dead, and hundreds of Afghans running for cover.
And the Abbey Gate was the gate that a lot of this activity was going on. And we were telling the military to get the Taliban out of the gate. And they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it. And to this day, I don't know why. But we worked all the gates trying to get American citizens and our translators and visa holders and their families out of Afghanistan through there. But once that happened, it shut down. And I knew. I was like, that's done. We're done getting there. It's going to be a long haul at this point. And so I started focusing on displaced women because I knew that they would be the most vulnerable of all of them. So we moved everything to Pakistan. So we put a lot of money into Pakistan. And a lot of displaced women went to Pakistan. And we have safe houses and areas, and we still shelter and feed people as they try to process to either a third country or, if they can, to the U.S. But it's got to be legal because it's horrible. You can't live in a country illegally.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. There's no
Crazy.
There's no attempt to do anything that's creates a illegal alien in another country. But can you talk to me about where you were able to leverage relationships with other countries around the world? It's one thing to come to the U.S. I know that's kind of like the golden ticket. Everyone wants to come to the U.S. But you've given safe haven to a lot of these people to go to other countries, not just the United States.
Right.
How did you leverage that and the relationships that you...
I started calling universities in other countries and getting education visas for people, and I would marry them up with the people that the universities, like in England, England was Poland to a lesser extent. We did some stuff that went through Poland that helped us with a visa to Poland and to another country. So they helped out there. But we'd talk to these universities and we'd say, hey, this person would be a good fit to go to school there. They know English, they know this, they know that, and they would have an interview, and then they would be able to receive a visa. Germany. So we'd go through Iran to get to Germany. Go to Iran, go to German embassy, fill out the paperwork, get a visa, go to Germany. And we were able to do that with people. And these again were people that were English speaking, hardworking, that absolutely supported us in our efforts all the time. I got a guy that's coming to the play tonight. His name's Hotak. He was separated from his family for 2 years. His 2 boys got on a plane. The wife and the 2 daughters, a newborn, weren't able to get on because she had just had a child, which he didn't tell me about, which I don't blame him. Shouldn't have, he was just trying to get out. He was a mechanic for us. It's funny because I always know that they worked with us because they always go, hey, brother. And I'm like, yeah, he worked with us. It's just a matter of how long at that point, and he's like, brother, they won't let us get on the airplane. I'm like, what do you mean they won't let you get on? I mean, we had worked this to death to get him on this plane. And I know the Taliban was looking for him because he was a mechanic, and we're leaving all that equipment. They don't know shit about that equipment.
Yeah. So he's needed.
He's needed. And he knew it too. And I got him into HKIA, and it's like, what do you mean you can't get on? He's like, well, I have a newborn and she has no papers. They won't let her on and I can't leave her. I'm like, brother, you get on that fucking airplane with whoever you feel comfortable with, but you get on it, because if you don't, you're not coming here. But if you get on it and you get to the States, we work your family over.
Yeah.
And so he had a hard decision to make right there. A Muslim husband, 2 sons, 2 daughters, 1 newborn, and a wife. And he gets on that plane with his 2 sons, and now he's the caretaker here in Virginia for 2 years. And I became a counselor for him, and I brought people in around the community to help him with his kids. I mean, it got to a point that even child services got involved because they're like, you can't leave these kids alone. He's like, I got to work. He's like, brother, I have to work. I have to make money. I'm like, I get it. We'll figure it out. So we worked through that, and for 2 years, we got to the point where we finally got his family manifested.
How did you do that? Did you have to how did you find her?
Well, I knew where she was at the whole time, and I had her paperwork, and we worked through the embassy, and we worked through trying to get her an interview, and then they gave her an interview, but it was in Qatar. And it's like, Qatar? I can't get her to Qatar. You guys know that. You know we can't fly them to Qatar. Qatar's not giving them a visa to have an interview. It's got to be in Pakistan, because it's not going to be, or you do it Zoom. which was I was pushing for him. Just Zoom it, and then get him to Abu Dhabi, and then you can do the face-to-face. But we're vouching. They got all the paperwork. You got the visa. You're at the interview process. So we finally got it moved. Took forever. Took like 6 months to get it moved to Pakistan. Then it took like another 4 months to get the interview date set up. And then we had to get her through everything to Pakistan to do the interview so that she could get the visa. And then once we got that, we got her on a plane through the CARE Coalition and here to the States. So they're reunited.
That's great. Oh, wow. That, you talk about doing the Lord's work. Like that is, I just can't imagine that.
We were all doing that.
Everybody. Yeah.
Everybody was all in on trying to help these people.
Yeah. Well, and they helped you guys.
They were our lifeline.
You couldn't have done what you did without them.
Yeah.
And you understand that because of that unconventional background that you have. From your perspective, when the whole Iraq war, the Iraq invasion came into play, were you then taken from, like, did you complete your tour in Afghanistan,
mm-hmm.
like a few weeks more, and then it's like, okay, you're going to Iraq next, and
yeah, so it's kind of funny. I ended up, I finished my tour, and the Army in its wisdom sent me orders to go to Leavenworth, Kansas. And so I was still in Afghanistan. And so my wife was like, okay. So she goes down and she's like, I got orders. And they're like, well, where's your husband? And he's not here, but I need to schedule household goods and all this other stuff. And when we went in Afghanistan, there was no orders bringing us home. Like, we didn't have orders for 179 days or 360 days. They were open in. So nobody knew when we were coming and going. Like, she had no idea. And we weren't Zooming. We weren't, or talking to each other. We rarely communicated. So she didn't know. So she just saw these orders and she's like, well, I guess we got to go to Kansas. And I guess I'm going to meet up with him in Kansas. So she starts trying to get that done. And the Army's like, no, your husband's got to do this. She's like, no, he's not here. He's in Afghanistan. And I got to schedule this stuff because it says. And so she pulls out, I can't remember that thing that we signed to give them the spouse full authority over stuff.
Like a power of attorney?
Power of attorney, thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of it. And she's like, I got this. And he goes, oh, okay.
That'll do it.
That'll do it.
Nice.
so she, and then so I go to Leavenworth, and because I just got out of Afghanistan, most of us went to Leavenworth or something like that, because we were starting to build what we were going to do in Afghanistan. And next thing I know, I get there in August. In October, I'm in Kuwait, back in it, and we're planning to go into Iraq. And so
were you one of the first teams in?
So I was now with 5th Corps, the Corps, as a Special Forces liaison to 5th Group, and also part of an organization called Battlefield. It was BCTP, Battle Command Training Program. So we were all fit inside the organization, doing jobs, staff jobs, or the assault command post, things like that. And what ended up happening with me was, as we were rolling into Baghdad on the invasion, General Wallace, who was in charge of 3 Corps, I was briefing him on everything that was going on. And so he goes, hey, I want you to take over the command post. I'm relieving the guy that's there. He's not doing the right job for me, and I think you're the guy for it. I'm like, no, I have no idea about all these tanks and stuff that we're trying to get into Iraq. You want me to be the chief of operations for that? And I'd made lieutenant colonel And he's like, yeah, you're the right guy. So I end up being the chief of operations and facilitating the movement with 82nd and the 4th ID and 101st and all of us into Baghdad as the fight is going on. So that's what I ended up doing during the invasion of Iraq, while 5th Group, helping them, they were coming from Jordan across, coming west to east, and everybody was kind of converging on Baghdad. So we all kind of got there at the same time, and that's.
What was the shift like, from being in an unconventional warfare environment to something now very conventional? The kinetic side also was extremely different, right?
Yeah. So it was interesting because I had come from Afghanistan. I knew how to deliver warfare. I know how to bring ordnance in on an operation. Guys had trained, but when you get down to actually making that decision, and I remember like one of them was we were looking at a Scud, and we were following it, and the fires guys, I was like, hey, you need to hit them with ATACMs, and they were mulling it over, and I was like, hey, fuck it, here, right now, act, execute. I'm giving the authority, execute, and that's what they needed. Someone that had done that, been there and done that, to say, okay, and we sent ATACMs onto the Scud. And then once that got rolling, then they understood warfare and how you really, administer all that. And we're using sensor to shooter stuff and at the corps level, at the division level. So I think part of it is, and even Wallace says this, he used to tell the story of, he would be somewhere and these SF guys would show up and they would tell him like, hey, here's where the bad guys are. We need your help in this area. And he said that would help target that area because we were missing that. The Corps was missing that picture in the division because they weren't on the ground like the SF guys were. And they were fighting with it. So they knew where the pockets of resistance were. So it's that's kind of how that flowed all the way up into Baghdad. And it was kind of interesting too. It was the first time I was actually able to really use my Arabic language skills. And I was pretty good at the time. So that helped a great deal when we got into Baghdad and we're starting to work with the Iraqis and not having to need a translator. And I actually write this in my book. I tell this story. I wrote a book on Iraq. I'm going to write some more on Afghanistan and some other stuff. But for some reason, I sat down and did a book this year on Iraq, on this thing. And one of the things that I did, I went in and I heard about this girl that was burned. And they blamed it on the Americans that she was burned. So I went to the housing area where she was at, and she was burned. She had the lantern had tipped over onto her, and she's sitting there, and she's like a 14-year-old girl. She's not even moving, and she's just burned everywhere. She'd been that way probably for a week. I don't know how she was dealing with the pain. And I had a medic there. I was like, yeah, we have to extract her. And the people outside, when we got there, was all pretty friendly. And then by the time we went in, we assessed her. We need to come back with an ambulance. We need to pick her up. Went back outside. The neighborhood was just enraged now that we were there. The Americans were there. But I was able to talk to them, use some language skills, some SF stuff, working, and assure them that we're here to help her. And then one of the guys points out that there's an air missile defense system, Iraqi, sitting right there, and that's what shot off and hurt the girl. not them, because Americans didn't fire in here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. But regardless, we went and got it.
Right. Yeah. This is the propaganda got them. They were all saying
Yeah.
that it was the U.S. The urban environment. What was more challenging for you?
The urban. I hate it.
Right.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, right from the get go when we were coming in, we got hit by an apartment complex, and I was in a soft vehicle, and it's like an ambush. Let's move into it. Go straight into it, and got on a wall, got into the apartment building, and we were able to extract the two guys that were trying to kill us or just shooting at us. But everything about the urban environment is you're just so closed in, and there's so many opportunities to be shot at.
Yeah.
From short range, and there's so many places to hide for the bad guys.
And you're not familiar with their ground. They have all the area familiarity.
Correct.
And then you also don't know in that moment who's innocent, who's not. So earlier you talked about like the toll of losing people and for it to not be in vain. What are some things that you would want people to remember about teammates and people that you commanded who did lose their lives?
It made a difference, and there's no better example than to see people hanging on American aircraft to get to America, knowing that that was a much better place to be than where they're at, because they met guys that were lost. Prosser, Predatory, Tarlowski, many, many more. They met those. They saw the Americanism from a soldier's perspective, that they wanted it so much that they would hang on an airplane while in flight.
If you could talk to yourself, in 2001, you just got on that horse, which we didn't talk much about the horse.
It was a mode of transportation. They were scraggly old animals that, that somehow or another was able to, big American soldier was 225 pounds with kid on, was able to shrug off and get us to where we needed to go. So what it's still today is not, I love the ideal of it, and I love that people really are fascinated by that. I do, I really do. And I think it shows that we're willing to do what it takes to accomplish the mission. And it certainly is a great symbol for special forces. The SEALs have their thing, and now we kind of have ours. So I think that's really great. Looking back on it, maybe I would tell myself not to be so cocky about it all. Maybe that might have endeared me more to my chain of command. And reduce some of the friction that they had with me, as some of the things that I was doing, like going into Pakistan and continuing to fight the fight. So maybe I'd say that. But other than that, like I said, I don't really regret a whole lot in life. I'm thankful. I am truly thankful that I was there in command at that time, to be in command of those troops. It was an awesome soldier. And to be able to tell that story and be able to have it with me, and to be able to, the teams that I've had, ODA 334 and ODA 555, those teams, those guys, maybe I would tell myself, enjoy the moment a little bit more, because it ends pretty damn quick. I couldn't believe it when it was time to retire. I was like, holy mackerel. I'm still a young guy. What are we talking about? You know, enjoy it a little bit more.
It goes by fast. Did you have any like rituals that you would do before?
Yeah, I'd always forget my boots.
Really?
All the time. It's the weirdest thing. And my guys knew it. They'd be like, hey, sir, you got your boots? Shit. Because my mind is going everywhere. And you know, we didn't always travel in uniform. And for some reason, I had the hardest time keeping up with my damn boots, man. And I would pray. I would always pray, say a prayer. And I always thought that it was weird. And I would even say, you know, in my prayer, I know this is strange, Lord, but I am asking that you keep us safe. And I know I'm going to war, but, you know, I want these guys to come back. And it's kind of a strange thing, but, you know, you're going to war and your business is killing and you're asking God to protect you. But, you know, that was part of my ritual. And I believed in it. You know, I believe there's protection. I believe there's divine intervention. I know there is. It's too many close calls. Holy mackerel, you get hit by lightning and you stand up.
So, you know, with that, did faith come before, after, or just constantly?
It's always been there since my grandmother instilled it in me. I think faith and knowing. It wasn't free will was the thing that kind of came to me later, kind of that understanding that we have free will and we make our own decisions and they're counter or they're in line with, you know, your religion or your values, your morals. And I think we all fight that, what that looks like, even though it's pretty clear. I mean, you know, Jesus Christ did kind of outline how you should be, and it's hard to follow that, you know, certainly. But it probably is a good way to live if you could live that way the whole time. So it's always been with me. Treating others respectfully, I think that kind of came being an Army brat. Because you know, even after, like we're talking about, you know, you go to a new place, you have a fight, you're still buddies afterwards. You know, we respect each other. So it's kind of, I think that was early on in my life.
And I was wondering as well about like purpose. You know, when you think of like how everything that you experienced in life would bring you up to certain moments, what do you feel your purpose? Well, I mean, you definitely have purpose. You survived a freaking lightning strike, and not to mention 10,000 other things. So what do you feel your purpose is?
You know, there was a book written, The Purpose-Driven Life, I read a long time ago, and I never really understood it. But I do understand that everybody seeks a purpose. For me, I think it's because I am an Army brat, and I've been to so many different places and so many experiences. I'm open to purpose. I was open to a life after the military. I was open to doing this play right now, to bring that story to people. That's my purpose. That's one purpose. I'm open to helping people by both of my nonprofits, 18 Series Coffee Company and AFGFree, to help people. I'm open to that. So that's a purpose. I was open to what happened in August 2021 to help people. I'd never done anything like that before, but I was open to it. I wanted to. I felt the need, and that became a purpose. So I think purpose is all around. It's just a matter of what you decide to jump into, you know. And you could have many purposes at the same time. You're a mother, absolute purpose. No greater calling than raising children. No more fun though than having grandchildren. And then, you know, you do your podcast. You know, there's another purpose. So I think we fall into, you know, what's my one purpose? I don't know. I just don't know. But I know I have many things that drive me.
And it seems you're always leaping at the opportunity to serve.
Yeah, someone else, excuse me. Someone else mentioned that, and I hadn't really thought about it before. And I was like, yeah, it does bring a level of satisfaction, right? Of I've done something. I've made a difference. Because I think everybody wants to make a positive difference. Not everybody, but most sane people want to make a positive difference in the world. Mm-hmm. Even if you make mistakes in the past. So, yeah, I think so.
Thank you for your service in so many aspects of life, and everything that you seem to put your hand on has betterment that is like magnitudes of improvement for other people's lives, of, touching other people's lives. And, whether you realize it or not, I mean, it's countless number of people that have better lives because of you. And, I aspire that more humans will be able to learn from your type of example, as a leader, as a human, as, the person that you are. And I want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that. Those kind words. Very kind words. Thank you.
So, Perry, I usually like to wrap up with a couple of questions, if possible. Being that you are a leader and you've, seen so much in the world, I would love to know if you could leave some wisdom of leadership lessons for the next generation, or like maybe it's a phrase or something that you say. What would you tell your grandkids?
Be yourself. First and foremost, you got to be yourself. You got to be genuine. Don't try to fake it, and act like you know what you're doing until you figure it out, because that's a positive direction. You're heading forward, because we don't have all the answers. There's this, excuse me, there's always this veil of uncertainty in front of us. You got to break through that veil to see what's beyond. And if you can't do it by inaction. So, and you can't do it by pretending to be somebody else. You're not. So that would definitely be, it's what I tell my kids. It's what I tell my grandkids, be yourself. If you're quirky, be quirky. Enjoy it. Yeah. Because the world needs quirky people.
Yeah. Aren't they special? Well, thank you for that. And then you understand the connotation behind being a gray man. You were once in the shadows. No one knew Perry Blackburn other than people within your own unit and, obviously your family and close circles. But now, you've been personified in a movie. You're doing so much, outside of the previous shadow career that you had. If you could be a gray man or not be a gray man and do it all over again, what would you want?
Not be a gray man. And because you cannot get results that, for me anyway, the results I needed to help people by being gray, I couldn't, because it's not me. Now there's other people, like maybe you, can work in the crawl spaces and make things happen. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. I knew how to be surreptitious and that stuff in the military, but when it comes to the world, the bigger world, and to make things happen, I felt like I had to put myself out there. I had to take that risk, and I've taken a lot of shit for that, and I get it. It's genuine. I mean, it's genuine people saying that, hey, I shouldn't have done it, but I didn't know how else to get airplanes to Afghanistan or to help people get to Pakistan, or to get money from people to give to other people through my nonprofits without being out there. I just didn't know how to do it. So definitely be out there.
Well, Perry, for the many lives that you've touched, Thank you for stepping out of the shadows and not being a gray man. That's a wrap.